Hello, you guys. This is Courtney from Willow's Bloom, and I am super excited to talk to you guys today about the full moon in Libra happening on March 28th. And I have my notes here, and I'm going to be breaking it down for all of the signs. But what I start off doing is giving you guys basically like an overview what the moon should look like, just generally, and then I'm going to get into the specific placements. And I do have some cards here for you guys that I'm going to pull along with the reading to kind of give us some more insight into the astrology. Okay, so this is called a worm moon, and it's happening at 8 degrees of Libra. And whenever there's a full moon, we know that it's basically lighting up two houses in our birth chart because the moon is always going to be opposite the sun in order for it to be full. And so, what that means is there's going to be some kind of dichotomy coming into play, some kind of theme coming into play. Because if you know anything about the houses in astrology, the opposite houses will always have similar meaning and opposite meanings to them. So they have similar themes essentially. So where this is happening is along the axis of Libra, where the moon is going to be, and the sun will be in Aries. So this is going to light up the ideas of being independent versus codependent, or in a relationship and understanding yourself through others versus making decisions and living for yourself. So there is this theme coming up here about myself versus them or others and your relationship with others. So we already know it's going to be highly focused on this theme or on relationships and partnerships. And that comes into play even more because of some of the alignments happening that I'm going to talk about. But this is the first moon that's happening after the spring equinox that happened on March 20th. And that's the reason they give it the name the worm moon, because apparently there's worms that come out at that time, and that's when things are starting to kind of come back to life because it's spring, which is really exciting. And we always know that spring occurs when the sun is in Aries. So that's basically the backdrop of what's happening. So as I mentioned, this is a lot to do with relationships and understanding ourselves and in relation to others. And I do see a lot of healing happening. I pulled out some words that I would consider a synopsis of this moon, and one of them was spiritual renewal. Another one was kiss and make up, because I'm getting the sense that for some of us, it could be a spiritual awakening and kind of up-leveling. But I think for a lot of us, it's going to be a lot of epiphanies occurring around relationships and healing old things that need to be let go so you can start a new chapter. Because full moons are always culmination periods. It's when the story has already been going on for some time and we start to have realizations about how we need to make changes to move forward. So it's not a fresh new beginning. It's the culmination, like I was saying. And so I do think that there's going to be a lot of stuff coming in from the past in regards to relationships during this time. So if you start to get like new ideas and stuff coming up, or if you start to have new realizations, or you want to say something to someone but you've been kind of unsure about how to go about that, this is the time to do that. And I'm going to kind of break down a little bit in more detail why I'm saying that. So this moon is also going to be involving Chiron and Venus. So the sun is actually right next to Chiron and Venus. And if you know anything about Venus, and you know it's a relationship planet. So inherently, we're talking about relationships here. It's pulling more emphasis or more focus into this moon, that it's about relationships. Not only is it in Libra, which is a sign of relationships, but it involves the planet that rules over Libra, which is Venus. So basically, it's going to be a really great time to have difficult conversations, because Venus is a really wonderful planet for creating more harmony and understanding between people. There are a few other things that I'm going to talk about that could be potentially challenging, but overall it looks really positive to me. And having Venus in the picture is always going to make things go a little bit smoother and feel a little bit more pleasant, especially because a lot of times full moons can bring up a lot of stored emotions. It's basically when these issues come to light and the emotions from them come to light as well. So it can feel sometimes challenging, but I feel like Venus involved here is automatically going to make us feel like we're more comfortable in that space that we're in. So the sun is also conjunct Chiron. And if you know anything about Chiron, then you know it has a lot to do with the past, and it has a lot to do with healing from the past as well. And so whenever Chiron comes into our chart or is activated in some way, like at this moon, it's basically saying that there needs to be some kind of letting go of some old wounds that have been holding us back. And because Venus is there as well, I think it's specifically old wounds around past relationships. So for example, if you're interested in starting a new chapter with somebody, it's going to be very important at this moon to get super clear with yourself about what you might be carrying into that next chapter that doesn't actually involve that person or doesn't need to be there. And I see this come up a lot whenever someone is interested in starting a new relationship. They bring a lot of baggage with them. And we've already accumulated so much baggage this past year and kind of been sifting through it as well. And I think that it's time for our relationships to sort of catch up with us and for us to throw out the things that aren't working in regards to how we interact with people. So it's a really, really good time, an important time to consider your boundaries and how much you're giving and receiving in relationships. That's personally what's been coming up for me, but that is probably something that's going to come up for a lot of people just because of the inherent wisdom that comes in from this Aries Libra axis that this moon is taking place on. It's a lot about boundaries of the self versus understanding others and being there for others. So those things are quite complex. And as we get older, we begin to see ways in which we compromise our own boundaries or compromise our own vision for someone else. And alternatively, where we're not compromising enough, I do see this coming to play with a lot of people that I know. And I just think that this is a really great time to address those issues specifically. So this moon is also going to be making a trine to Mars, which is currently in Gemini. So if you are a Gemini, you likely have more ambition and energy at this time, possibly more fights, but likely just more vitality. Anyway, so the moon is trining Mars in Gemini, which I'm really seeing this as an opportunity for us to have a lot of courage to speak our truth. Because a trine is a very harmonious aspect that basically means that these energies are supporting each other. So the moon is our emotions and Mars is our assertiveness. And with these making a trine, we're going to be more likely to express exactly how we feel, to have the courage to have some of these more difficult conversations, or to even face our own emotions, which we may have been putting off for a little while. The moon is also going to be making a trine to Saturn, and the sun is sextiling Saturn. So to me, this is that lasting element of change. It's where we're putting in the effort now to create lasting change for the future, to create a solid foundation for ourselves. We can't move forward with old baggage. We have to let it go. And to create a strong foundation, we can't have all of our problems in there. And I feel like that's exactly what this is saying, that if we do take the time and have the courage to have these conversations or to face these truths about ourselves and relationships, then it's ultimately going to pay off for us. But it's going to take some time. It's not going to happen all at once overnight. And I think that's essentially what Saturn is doing, is it's supporting us for the long term. The moon is also going to be making a quincunx with Uranus and Taurus. So this has a lot to do with built up tension and emotions kind of bursting out of you. So it is possible that some of what you have a desire to speak could kind of come rushing out of you all at once. But I do feel like this trine to Saturn will keep you more composed and in control of what you have to say and what you think. And I really feel like the quincunx to Uranus is the discomfort of these emotions building up over time that internally will lead us to make the decision to speak our truth in some respect. So I'm really feeling that there is something that we need to communicate about in terms of relationships or emotionally face within ourselves in regards to relationships at this time. So Uranus, I think, is going to be the impetus that causes like the emotions brewing within us to say something, and Mars gives us that courage, and Saturn gives us the composure, I should say, to choose our words wisely. So there's also a bunch of other stuff going on in the sky that is not directly aspecting the sun or the moon. And I'm going to talk about those because that does have a lot to do with the backdrop of what is being felt at this time. So as I've been saying in a lot of my videos, we do still have Saturn making a square to Uranus. It is no longer exact. It's at 2 degrees and separating, which means it's going to be felt less and less, but it's kind of like this background agitation that things need to change. And so, because it's not exact, I'm really feeling like this is giving us a big picture opportunity to make changes in our life across the board. And that dissatisfaction and discomfort that comes from Mars square Uranus is basically, again, acting as that impetus. Because whenever there's a harsh angle with Uranus, it gives us that electric push and that energy to go out and actually make something different happen in our lives. So I feel like that's kind of just something that's been bubbling in the background and will continue on. And it's going to become exact later on in a few more months. So we don't need to worry about it necessarily. But just know that if you do feel at moments like you are ready to be in a new life now, that can kind of come in from that Saturn square Uranus energy. Okay, so something to really be wary of is Mercury is going to be conjunct Neptune. So they're both in Pisces right now. And Mercury doesn't like to be in Pisces already because Mercury is a very intelligent and mental planet. So it's activated through the thoughts, whereas Pisces tends to activate through energy and through sensation and feelings and intuition. And so they're operating on 2 different planes. Pisces is kind of vibrating on this really higher plane, whereas Mercury is more living in the grounded earth, and the energies don't quite match. So sometimes when we go to express ourselves, we can feel it or see it and understand it within ourselves. But when Mercury's in Pisces, it's almost like it doesn't come out the way that we feel it or see it in our head. So if you feel like that happens at this time, it's likely also because Neptune is right there enhancing that energy, because Neptune can essentially create fogginess or haziness or lack of clarity, especially when it's aligned with the planet. It can sort of dissolve the faculties of that planet. So in some sense, I feel like we're going to have trouble communicating what we need to. And yeah, so I think on one hand, we need to communicate or we need to face some of these things. But on the other hand, our mind is not going to be so agile and our way of communicating isn't going to be either. So I really think it's going to be important to come at these conversations or facing of your emotions from your heart center, from your gut, from your intuition, because all of this is really centered around feeling instead of thinking. If we kind of fall back into our Mercury, what we're doing is we're relying too much on our intellect, too much on our thoughts to guide us, when this is not the time energetically. It's not supported at this time to use our mindset necessarily. We're really supposed to go with our gut feeling. What is your gut telling you, and how can you express that in a way that really shows how you're feeling, instead of just trying to, I guess, control yourself and make it appear a certain way, or not say everything in the most natural sense. So you just, basically what I'm getting is a sense of vulnerability and compassion, because that's really what these energies are bringing about. And so if you can approach your conversation with yourself or with another with that kind of energy, I feel like you're going to get super far during this full moon. Okay. And just also be careful about the messages that you receive because of this. I know that the last moon that we had this month, the new moon, was also filled with this kind of like sense of idealism. And I think I've seen this playing out in people around me in their relationships. This is a very idealistic time for people who are moving into new chapters with new people. And I don't want to discourage you from enjoying that, because that's one of the best parts about life. But just kind of keeping in mind that sometimes things might not always be exactly as they seem, and to not rush into things. I think that can come in here in terms of communication. If somebody is saying something to you and it seems like too good to be true, and your gut is telling you that it might be too good to be true, then it probably is. So just listen really carefully this time to your intuition, because that's going to be very strongly activated. And if you just use that as a guidepost, then I think you'll be fine at this time. Mercury is also making a square to Mars in Gemini. So I feel like this can sometimes lead to possible frustration in communication. So if somebody isn't being direct with you, isn't being honest and somehow deceitful, then this square can come up in the fact that you might feel frustrated and agitated and be more likely to fight in that sense. What squares do, as I always say, is they give us an opportunity to make a change in our lives and to be better people. So I genuinely really like squares, even though they can feel a little bit challenging at the time. So with Mercury making a square to Mars, it's basically challenging us to make the change in the way that we communicate, to come more from the heart and not in an aggressive sense, to not just have outbursts and just say exactly what you think and feel in the moment, or to not even treat yourself aggressively if this is something that's happening internally. So if you're used to kind of beating yourself up, this is giving yourself an opportunity to make a different choice at this time. So we also have Saturn making a trine to Mars, which is going to be conjunct the North Node. So I just want to talk about that for a second. Mars conjunct the North Node. What does that mean? So the North Node as a collective is the energy that we're trying to move into in order to evolve our souls. So the fact that Mars is right there, the planet of stamina, of energy, I feel like what it's asking us to do is take action towards something that is going to help us evolve. And there's a few signs of like passivity here. I feel like some of the energy with Mercury and Pisces and Neptune can create the sense of passivity, even sometimes with Venus, like, oh, I'm just gonna like let things happen and see where the chips fall. And I really don't get the feeling that this full moon is asking us to totally surrender in that sense. I think what we're supposed to be doing is taking action and then surrendering. So there is some type of action that needs to happen at this full moon, whether that's a realization, an epiphany, and making different choices from there on out, whether that's having that conversation with somebody or making a change to your relationship in some respect. There is a need for action, and that's really what I'm seeing the Mars being on the North Node is signifying. And so the fact that Saturn is trining this, I feel like what it's saying is that if we take bold but calculated action, we're going to see this payoff in the long term. So we don't want to be impulsive, which can be Mars, but we want to have a blend between Mars and Saturn, which is being courageous, taking action, not being afraid, but then making sure it's well thought out, making sure it's well planned, calculated, and in our best interest long term. We also, we also have Saturn making a square to Uranus, but I already touched on that. So that's pretty much what I am seeing for this full moon. I am getting a sense of kind of a continuation of the last moon in the sense that I feel like it is a very loving time of the year. I feel like there is a lot of compassion moving around, people understanding and harmonizing, but then there is a degree where we need to take responsibility for ourselves as well, and how we're showing up to the relationship and changes that we need to make inside of ourselves to have the healthiest possible relationships. And so I think that's what this full moon is trying to get us to address in our lives. So yeah, I'm going to go through all of the signs now. Thanks so much for staying tuned to that. So first up, we have Aries Rising. I am going to be pulling some cards for you guys to kind of talk about this moon in conjunction, because with cards, because it's always just so helpful to add that extra layer. And I just wanted to show you guys this new crystal that I got because I thought it was so pretty. I think it's raw amethyst. Yeah, anyway, so this full moon in Libra is going to be taking place in your 7th house of relationships for you guys. And I also wanted to introduce this new deck that I got from a friend of mine, Merhipsy. You should check her out. So this is the front of the deck, and then it's a bunch of crystals, and you can see this is one on the bottom, and it's just so beautiful, so well done, and I highly recommend you check her out. This is the Mystic Rebel Oracle deck, but she goes by Merhipsy on Instagram. So yeah, I highly recommend it if you want to learn some of what these crystals mean while also getting divination tools from from source, basically. Okay, so yeah, as I mentioned, this full moon in Libra is happening in your 7th house because, of course, the sun is transiting your 1st house. So this is a great time for you guys to have more vitality in your life in general, attract more harmony and into your life. I think this is going to be extremely positive to have the sun conjunct Venus and even Chiron in your 1st house right now. It's going to give you, like, it's going to help you be more attractive and also heal many aspects of yourself. It's even possible to heal your physical body as well, especially for women or like for women related ailments. So this is a great time to kind of focus on that if any of that is coming up for you. But this moon is also going to be making a trine to Mars conjunct the North Node in Gemini in the 3rd house for you. So as I was saying in the initial part of the video, there is definitely going to be some necessity for communication here, because with the trine to Mars in the 3rd house, it is basically saying that either your mindset or something about your communication needs fixing, or if you want to get kind of even more detailed, it could be something related to your relationship with your siblings, specifically brothers, because Mars rules brothers. So there could be some element there that needs to be addressed, but definitely I'm getting the communication aspect of this very strongly. So if there is some kind of conversation that you've been meaning to have with somebody, especially siblings, now is definitely the time to do so, because you're going to have more support to resolve any issues that you're having. Okay, this is another crystal that I got. I don't know why I'm showing you guys all this, because I guarantee I won't do that to other groups. Anyway, and then this moon is also making a trine to Saturn in Aquarius in the 11th house. So you guys, I've been talking about this for a little while, and that's so funny. I just pulled Venus in Aquarius with number 11. So this must be important for you guys. This is a lot about friendships. And Saturn moving through the 11th house, I've been talking about, can make you kind of feel a little bit more like you have to put more work into creating the bonds and the friendships that you want. Maybe, your relationships are just requiring more effort, or maybe you feel a little bit more isolated at this time. And so that can really be coming in at this full moon for you to heal parts of that. And it could be an aspect here of trying to reach out to more people, and that could be part of the communication, is literally just being in contact with more people, showing up on social media more, going around your neighborhood more, trying to actually meet people in your local area. I feel like that will be very beneficial for you at this full moon to do. And you might have to let go some of these innate insecurities that you hold, because the moon is also making a quincunx to Uranus in the 2nd house. The 2nd house has a lot to do with our skills that we develop over time, the things that help us make money and help us to become just better people. And the quincunx here is basically saying that you may have some insecurities about your abilities, or just traits about yourself. They could be deep-seated, and that could be part of what brings you to maybe address some dynamics in your relationships. Or it even could be something so simple as you don't feel like you're as good as everyone else that you work with. Or maybe you just have some insecurities from your past, from your childhood, that you feel like low-key are kind of affecting your relationships today. And we all have that. But I think specifically for you guys, that's where some of the work is going to be done for you. And as an Aries rising, you guys are already very good at focusing on your needs typically. I mean, it depends on your chart, but normally with an Aries rising, you guys have really mastered the ability to know what you need and to try to assert your boundaries in order to achieve those things that you desire. So oftentimes for the Aries dominant chart, the Libra energy is actually going to be more challenging. So it could be a really great time or beneficial time to work on your way of relating and understanding one another and relying on another person. So I just think that can sometimes be, like an independence that can go so extreme that you might feel like you don't need somebody else or don't need to lean on somebody else. That's obviously extreme cases, but if that's you, that's absolutely something that you're meant to address at this time, especially with this Venus moving through your first house. Okay, so there's so many alignments. Let me just mention the last few things and then I'll kind of talk about the cards that I have here for you guys. So, as I mentioned, Mercury is also going to be conjunct Neptune in Pisces in the 12th house for you guys. So, there can be definitely some hidden information that you are operating under without being aware. So there is some, I feel like this is an influence from childhood that may be contributing to certain situations happening in your relationships now, but I feel like you're definitely unaware of what exactly that is, or at least you have been, and it's possible that it could come to light with the square happening with Mars in the 3rd house. That square can stimulate the 12th house where things go to be hidden, to be in the unconscious. The square can stimulate that and bring it into the 3rd house, the house of the conscious mind. So you can literally move from unconscious to conscious. So I can see epiphanies happening at this time, possibly for you guys. And yeah, I kind of feel like that's part of what this Venus in Aquarius card has to deal with, is maybe there is some element here that is like some insecurity or something from the past, from your childhood, that is currently affecting your friendships or your ability to make friends. So if you've been feeling insecure about like going up and talking to somebody, or if something happened in the past and you think that you may have been traumatized from that and unconsciously carrying some of those things forward, just be really aware of that. I'm definitely feeling like this is coming in through your friend group with Venus and Aquarius. It says detachment here, but I feel like it's more detaching yourself from the past of how things maybe were in a previous relationship that could have been slightly toxic or unhealthy for you. It's detaching yourself from that so you can feel free when you go out and you meet new people and not burdened by these things from the past. So yeah, I think the biggest thing for you guys is really coming in. It is around partnerships, but I really see this focus on friendship here as well. So I think it's kind of coming at you guys from all angles. It's your relationships, and it's definitely like your partner and friendships, in the sense that you need to confront anything that you've been bringing up in those specific areas of your life. I also pulled the King of Pentacles here, which is interesting. I kind of feel like this is your energy. Like maybe you've been working really hard and focusing on building things in the tangible world. But do you notice how these two cards are this is like air and earth, where what you're missing are the cups. You're missing the water element here. So you've got the intellect, you've got you're also missing fire, but anyway, you are the fire because you're Aries, right? So you've got the intellect with the air, you've got the practicality and the actual work and effort with the earth, and you have the fire natally, but then you're missing the cups, which is really living from the heart and really telling people how you feel emotionally, connecting with people emotionally. So I feel like that is actually what you're meaning to cultivate more of in your life. Maybe there's been some element of you that's been overly focused on work, or has been just kind of focused on yourself or certain aspects of your life that aren't about emotions. And maybe it's time at this moon to take a step back from those things. You've done really well in those so far, and then to give you a chance to feel. Okay, so I also pulled the Garnet card, and I'm still getting to know these. I literally just opened them. So I'm going to read what this says. Okay, don't freak out, but Garnet isn't here with great news. It comes as a warning of approaching trouble. Things aren't super clear right now in the situation you're asking about, and you can't see the full picture. You may be getting a little ahead of yourself with this. Garnet lovingly asks you that you don't be foolish in thinking you know it all. You don't have it all under control as you'd hoped. Okay. And this is basically saying to follow your intuition right now, and that you can turn this obstacle into an opportunity. So I really feel like that could be coming through with you guys. When I told you guys that you have Mercury and Neptune in Pisces in the 12th house, that is the lack of clarity. There is something here happening behind the scenes that is unconsciously driving you. And you guys, as fire signs, you have a lot of confidence and courage, and you might feel like you have a sense of control with those emotions, but actually anything that's moving in the 12th house is kind of like it's out of our control because it is literally operating underneath the scene, right? So I feel like what it's saying right now is that you can't rely on your mind because your mind, Mercury, is in the 12th house, just kind of doing its thing without you. So you have to really touch into your intuition, into your emotions, into the cups, into feeling at this time instead of trying to go with your head. So if you've been thinking about something and mulling it over again and again in your head and you can't get down to what you're thinking or how you're feeling, you need to go more with your gut and with your intuition. So that's really what I'm seeing for you guys. I hope that helps. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if it resonates, please comment down below. And as always, if you want, you can have a reading from me. You can go over to willowsbloom.com and check it out. Have a great day. Bye. All right, up next we have Taurus Rising. So I'm going to be pulling some cards for you guys and also talk about the astrology and use them all together. There's a lot of alignments for this one, so it's kind of taking me a while for each one. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Okay, so for you guys, this full moon in Libra is happening in your 6th house, which typically has a lot to do with work, which is very interesting. The sun is in the 12th house, lighting up the area of your spirituality as well as your unconscious mind and the need to be alone. So if you do feel a little bit more like you need some time this month, take that time because the sun is moving through the 12th house for, from the start of Aries season, which was on the March 20th. So it's going to be for a while now. It's going to be for the rest of the month. So if you do feel tired, that's why. And then when Taurus season hits in May, you guys are going to be like coming alive. You're going to have so much more energy. Or late April, but yeah, you know when Taurus season starts. Okay. Anyway, so this moon is making a trine to Mars, which is conjunct the North Node in your 2nd house. So there's definitely some element here. This is all about career, you guys. So even though it's a lot about relationships, I mean, just inherently with what's going on in the stars, it's hitting the houses for you that are activating money and career, essentially. So there can always be some element of relationships that needs to be worked out within that. And there's probably still relationship things that need to be worked out in your life, but really I'm seeing a huge concentration around career. So, okay, yeah. So this moon I said is making a trine to Mars in the 2nd house. So Mars being conjunct the North Node in your 2nd house is telling you to take action to develop a certain skill that is ultimately going to benefit your career. It's going to help you move. I think it's really going to help you do like a hierarchical shift up basically in your career. So if there has been something that you've been wanting to develop within yourself, whether that's like to go back to school, not that I'm specifically seeing school here, but sometimes you need schooling or at least practice to develop a skill. So I'm seeing some kind of skill that needs to be cultivated, and that's ultimately going to help you. This moon is also making a trine to Saturn in the 10th house. So I'm seeing that as you're putting into this effort, you're ultimately weaving a legacy for yourself and you're helping yourself long term. So whatever skills you need to develop are really going to pay off in a larger picture as well. So even if it's just something that you're using for your current job, or even just something that you've been thinking about for yourself, I see that when you zoom out, you're going to see how that skill kind of plays a part, a small but pivotal part in a larger picture of what helps you kind of develop your purpose and your legacy in this world. So I feel like that's actually a really big deal for you guys. This moon is also making a quincunx to Uranus in the 1st house. So this is interesting. The 1st house has a lot of different meanings, so it's kind of hard to pinpoint and say this is what this experience is going to be like for you, because Uranus in the 1st is, I mean, it's been here for a while and it's going to continue to be here for a while, but it's creating some change in your identity, your purpose, your physical body. It can come in all elements that are really related specifically to you. So I feel like this quincunx here is saying that maybe it's time to allow yourself to envision yourself a little bit differently in order to pursue these skills. So sometimes I think we can put ourselves in a box like, okay, I'm a teacher, so this is what I do and this is what I do for work. But I'm seeing you needing to develop some kind of other skill, whether that's to aid your teaching or whether that's something totally different. So maybe there kind of needs to be this release of any boxes that you've put yourself in and kind of defined yourself as. I feel like Uranus is coming in here and saying, you know, you are who you want to be. So I really love that for you guys. What's happening in the background is that Mercury is going to be making a conjunction with Neptune and Pisces in your 11th house of friendships. So there could be some lack of clarity kind of coming in around friendships or even around your hopes and wishes for the future. So if you don't have a clear like vision for the future right now, really what I'm hearing is to just trust your gut and intuition. So if you've been called to develop a skill, to learn something new, to try something new, I'm hearing that you guys are really meant to just follow your gut and not actually know where that's supposed to lead you right now. Use your intuition. It's trying to tell you, because when I first started this, you guys, when I first started Willow's Bloom, I didn't even intend on doing astrology. I was just following my intuition one step at a time. And ultimately where it led me was here, and it felt like it clicked into place so naturally. But if I didn't take that first step because I didn't have the end vision, then I would still be where I was, 2 years ago and not as happy. And so that's what I'm seeing for you guys, is that you kind of just gotta go blindly with this one and trust that whatever is coming up for you at this time is the right thing for you. So, that Mercury conjunct Neptune is also going to making a square to Mars in the second. So yeah, I feel like that's exactly what that's saying. Like, you don't want to rush into something and be super impulsive, which can happen, and throw down like a lot of money or something like that. But there is definitely a need to pick up a new skill, learn something new, because it's ultimately going to benefit your career, and follow your intuition when doing so. Saturn in your 10th house is also making a trine to the North Node and Mars in the second. So I feel like what it's saying is that once you've developed that skill, it's ultimately going to benefit you long term. So I already touched on that. Okay, so I pulled some cards for you guys. I pulled Jupiter in Aquarius, Innovation. Interesting. So I'm seeing, the last group had Venus in Aquarius. So Venus and Jupiter, if you don't know, are the two benefic planets in astrology that give us blessings, that benefit us, that harmonizes us as people. And it's interesting that both of them have come up in Aquarius. I do feel like it's trying to tell you that as you think outside the box, you're going to start being able to believe in yourself more. Yeah, that's really what I'm feeling, because a lot of times when I think of Jupiter, I do see it as our belief in ourselves, our optimism for ourselves and our future. And being in Aquarius, it is our long-term vision. It is seeing things differently than they are now, dreaming up things that don't exist. But again, you guys have Mercury and Neptune and Pisces, Mercury conjunct Neptune and Pisces in the 11th house, which is the house of where we dream up new things. It's the house that's typically linked with Aquarius. So I feel like what this is saying is that allow yourself to kind of be dreamy at this time about where you might want to go. Don't try to concretize things and have exact answers for things, but allow yourself to dream and have a big vision, because that's when you're going to start having these downloads come in, and over time it will start to make sense. But you almost have to dream a little bit, maybe even to figure out what skills you need to develop or you're interested in. So basically allowing yourself to go there, and don't get caught up in like the practicality of it, which Taurus can kind of be safe and practical. Throw that away. This is about dreaming big, having a vision for the future that makes you uncomfortable, makes you feel like it's never going to happen, but put all those emotions aside and actually try to believe in yourself for once, and just play with the idea without having the full commitment of having it all planned out like a Taurus normally would. I also pulled the Four of Wands for you guys. It did come out in reverse, but I'm not reading reversals. So this is interesting, because a lot of times when you see this, it's like the marriage card, but really what I'm seeing is like a commitment to yourself. I mean, 4 is this very stable, grounding energy and number. I mean, everything that is foundational has four corners, right? I mean, not everything, but most things have four corners that are foundational. So what I'm seeing is that what new skills or things that you're kind of looking at developing at this time will actually be very foundational to some kind of career changes that could come up in the future, especially in many years from now when Saturn actually leaves your 10th house of career. I think you'll start to see that things move a lot faster. So yeah, probably in like 2 years and some change, you'll see that things start to move a lot faster, and the foundational things that you're working on now are going to make a really, really big difference again in the long term. Okay, so I pulled the soulmate crystal card, and this is from the Mystic Rebel Oracle deck. I highly recommend you checking it out. It's from Merhipsy on Instagram. She's super cool. She's a friend of mine, and she's just so amazing, and I'm excited to share her work with you guys. So I am not familiar with all these crystals, which is exciting for me because then I get to learn them as I kind of pull them for you guys. So I'm going to talk about the soulmate card. Okay. Très romantique. Soulmate is here to help prepare you to embrace the highest frequency of love in your life. Whether you're single and ready to mingle or taken by a lifelong love, Spirit is sending you a sign that your love life is about to level up big time. Just as a stone is comprised of two fused yet equally dazzling parts, your angels are preparing you to merge as two complete individuals with your soulmate match. Okay, so I feel like this is an additional message coming in besides career, because it's funny. I pulled the Four of Wands and the soulmate card, and both of these are about like weddings and finding your match. So I think the layered level that's coming in from the cards and not specifically from the astrology is that there is some relationship on the horizon for you, or if you're getting married, this is like a really good omen and a really good sign, especially because as a Taurus rising, Venus is your chart ruler, or one of the most important planets in your chart, and Venus is conjunct this sun, which is happening in the full moon. So it's basically giving you a lot of that relationship love energy kind of downloaded into you already as a Taurus rising. So that is an additional message. I'm definitely seeing stuff coming through for work, but love is right there as well. So I hope that this resonated with you guys. If you liked it, please give me a thumbs up. And if it did resonate, please comment down below. Or even if it didn't, just let me know. And as always, if you want, you can purchase a reading at willowsbloom.com. Thanks. Bye. All right, up next we have Gemini Risings. So for you guys, this moon is happening in your 5th house, which has a lot to do with the joys and the pleasures of life. And the sun aligned with Venus already is a lot to do with just joy and pleasure. So I'm very interested to see where this reading takes us. I am pulling some cards to go along with this astrology message, because I feel like you can just get so much deeper when you add in the level of tarot. I love mixing these divination tools for you guys. And Page of Pentacles. Okay. So this moon is also going to be making a trine to Mars conjunct the North Node in your 1st house. So I did mention this, I think, at the beginning, but having Mars move through your 1st house will energize you. So it can make you literally more physically active at this time. If you're not being more physically active, I suggest that you do so. Be very careful though about injuries, about taking things too quickly, because sometimes, you know, with Mars there, we can have the propensity to do that. So just be kind of more cautious, but physically active at this time. So the moon making a trine to Mars conjunct the North Node in your 1st house, I feel like this is basically saying that you are starting to up level. I know I've been talking to Gemini Risings differently than a lot of the groups because of the fact that this whole 2020, you guys had really intense transformation take place. And so I think that this is giving you, this is kind of like the universe putting gasoline in your car. Like I see it literally revving up your engine and giving you the vitality to go out and take the things that you want, to make things happen, and to make huge changes in yourself that you've been meaning to make for a long time. So I feel like those things have been already going on. You've been already trying to make these changes, but now with this trine to Mars, it's basically giving you even more energy and capacity and desire, ambition to do that. So if you've been feeling tired or lackluster, I feel like this is starting to give you a little bit more of that energy back. This moon is also making a trine to Saturn in the 9th house. So I feel like you guys are developing something creative at this time. It doesn't have to be that. It could be a new romantic relationship. There's different ways to interpret this. It could also have a lot to do with children. So there are a few ways that this could come in. So with the trine to Saturn in the 9th, it's possible that if this is a new creative venture for you guys, that you might have to do a little bit more studying, a little bit more research in order to get this thing, packaged out the door the way that you want it to be. And whatever you're doing in that sense is really going to benefit you. So putting in a little bit of time, being careful about exactly what you want in this creative endeavor is going to pay off in the long term. If this is a romantic partnership, I really feel like this is you guys kind of working on your mindset around relationships. I do think a lot of us just in general with this full moon are going to be having epiphanies about how we are with one another, how we relate to one another, the ways in which we're showing up and maybe shouldn't be showing up. And so I think that with Saturn in the 9th house is giving you more of like a realistic and quizzical brow, essentially realistic view of how you are as a person and kind of doing like a zoom out view of your relationship history and really allowing yourself to see with clarity this time where those flaws may kind of come in and break apart what would have been a strong foundation in a relationship. This moon is also making a quincunx to Uranus in the 12th house. So there could be some stuff coming to light that has to do with, loss in the past that is part of what needs to be healed or to let go of in order to move forward with this creative project or with this romantic partnership. A lot of that is the feeling I'm getting with the 12th house. It doesn't have to just be loss. It could be or escapist tendencies. So if you've been removing yourself in some ways from dealing with issues because you've been using escapist tendencies, then this is me calling you out on it and basically saying this quincunx to Uranus is saying that there needs to be some kind of change here or release here so that you can break that pattern essentially. I also want to talk about what's going on in the backdrop. So you guys have Mercury conjunct Neptune in Pisces in your 10th house. Yeah, so with these planets in your 10th house, I'm definitely getting a sense here that there is not total clarity in how things are going to play out in your career right now. And that's totally okay. You guys are meant to be operating within your intuition in your career. So if you've been really trying to think about things and like make decisions from your intellect, now is not the time for that. You need to set that aside, meditate and check in with your soul on a deeper level and make career choices from that place. And this is also making a square to Mars in your first house. So I feel like the more that you are taking action to make changes within yourself that you've been again meaning to change, I feel like as you do that, you're going to suddenly get more and more clarity with time in your career, in the career area. So if you're developing something creative and you're just not sure how it's going to land with people, or you're not really sure about all the pieces yet, I feel like again that's going to come with clarity as you go within with your intuition and as you do personal development with yourself. And Saturn is also in the 9th house making a trine to the Mars in North Node in your first house. So again, I feel like this personal development is going to be intricately linked with your beliefs about life in general and your beliefs about the past and your relationships, just like your beliefs in general. So any limiting beliefs that you've been kind of operating under are going to be improved as you begin to do some of that personal development. Those are just hand in hand events that are happening. So I pulled the Mars and Pisces escape card. Oh, so interesting because I literally was just talking about escapism. So yeah, this could definitely be coming up with some of you guys that with this quincunx to Uranus in the 12th, that there has been some possible, escapist tendencies in some way that could be escaping through spirituality, through TV, through exercise, through food, through sex, through drugs. I think people really underestimate how much we escape from things. So this is not the time to do that. There could be a propensity or desire to do that because specifically of Mercury conjunct Neptune and Pisces. Even with the Sun conjunct Venus, there can be a desire to enjoy the luxuries of life and the comforts of life. So just make sure that you don't fall into that at this time. It's going to be a lot more beneficial for you to closely examine yourself and your beliefs, and you can't do that if you aren't fully present in your life and in your body. I also pulled the Page of Pentacles for you guys, which is a lot about a brand new beginning and kind of laying the foundation for something. You see, she has one pentacle in her hand. It's like one brick. She's laying down the first brick of something that she's building in her life. And I feel like this is a renewed sense of self. Yeah, I feel like this is not just about career. It's not just about relationships. It's about being a totally new person and approaching all those facets of your life from this different perspective, because you're different inside. So I feel like you guys have been doing that all of 2020, kind of like demolishing what was, and now you're rebuilding. And this is one of the best times to heal things from the past so that you can rebuild a more positive future. And I also pulled the Jade card here, and this is coming from the Mystic Rebel Oracle deck, which is from a friend of mine. You can find her at the Merhipsy on Instagram, and this is just so amazing. I'm very excited to be learning each of these crystals as I go through and just read them out for you guys. So let me just go ahead and find what jade specifically relates to. I believe that jade is the crystal that people use, at least in Vietnam, I think maybe in other Southeast Asian places. But yeah, I mean, I know that they definitely use this for protection and for luck. So jade, what does this have to say to you guys? The answer you are seeking has to do with aligning yourself with your purpose. Any unhappiness you feel comes from being disconnected from what you truly long to be doing with your life. Your purpose isn't always about your career. You can fulfill your purpose by simply being you in the right place at the right time. Let jade constructively channel your passionate energy into inspired action towards fulfilling your divine purpose. And knowing when to break down self-imposed limitations. You guys, I feel like this is exactly what I was just talking about. This isn't even just about your career purpose. This is about you changing internally, you letting go of those limiting beliefs, you letting go of the past and healing from it so that you guys can actually kind of fully come out of that cocoon. Because this is how I've seen the Gemini Risings, as this caterpillar that's been in the cocoon and ready for its full metamorphosis. So this is one step in the metamorphosis. You're not done yet. I think all of 2021 will continue like this, but this is a really positive time energetically to support healing. So I hope that this resonates. If so, please give me a thumbs up or comment down below, or both. And if you want a personal reading, you can check that out at willsboom.com. Thanks. Bye. All right, you guys, up next we have Cancer Rising. So let me just set a new alarm for you guys because my camera shuts off after 30 minutes. And anyway, okay, so this moon is happening in your 4th house of home and family. Oh, I love this because that has a lot to do with Cancer energy already. So I definitely feel like this is going to be really positively impacting you guys. Definitely releasing some things from childhood, from fears and limitations. Definitely. Yeah, so I'm just looking at all my notes right now and I'm going to pull some cards for you guys. And this is actually my new favorite deck. They are all crystals and I am trying to learn what all the crystals signify. And this is the Mystic Rebel deck that is actually a friend of mine at the Merhipsy on Instagram. Definitely go check her out. She is a intuitive teacher and just so amazing. So I pulled the black tourmaline for you guys. And let's see what we have in terms of Queen of Wands. Stepping in to your higher self. That's really what I'm seeing with that card. And one more, we got Mercury and Capricorn organization. Interesting. Okay, so with the moon lighting up your 4th house, I definitely am feeling like there is familial happenings that you're healing from right now. And I feel like this is ultimately going to help you with your career because the sun is in the 10th house, and with Venus and Chiron there, I feel like it's almost like a cleansing happening in your career, like a replenishment happening in that area of your life. And it's only happening because you guys are releasing definitely some things from the past. I mean, with the moon making a trine to Saturn in the 8th house, this is you addressing like fears and limitations that you can be imposing on yourself. It also could be things around like fears around being vulnerable, and that could even play into your career. So I'm just feeling like with this trine, it's allowing you to let some of those things go, basically. Sorry, I'm just feeling like I need to tune into this message for a second. Yeah. It's so interesting because this moon is also making a trine to Mars and the North Node, which for you guys is in the 12th house. I feel like a lot of this year for you guys, at least until the North Node shifts out of Gemini into Taurus. So I think a lot of this year, while North Node is in Gemini in your 12th house, is about going inward. And sometimes the 12th house is a contraction period. And it's interesting because everyone has the North Node in Gemini right now, but for you, it happens to fall in a house that has a lot to do with loss or the ending of cycles, because it's the last house of the wheel or the zodiac, and then you move into Aries or the first house. So it's like you're wrapping things up, you're letting things go, you're releasing some things, and there is a fear in that. I feel like that is probably where some of this fear is coming in with Saturn in the 8th house. There can be a fear around letting old things go and closing old chapters to start anew. And I feel like you guys are doing that this year, and this might even come through specifically in career too. You might feel like some of these changes are coming in through career or possibly home. So if you like moved a home or moved towns or changed career or have been desiring to do that or have done that, I feel like those things specifically are coming in for you guys as feeling like maybe like a loss, like a bittersweet type of thing. Like you know that you need to let that go and that chapter, but at the same time, there's a part of you that loved that life, that loved that person that you used to be, but it's just not suiting you anymore. And it's interesting because this moon is also making a quincunx to Uranus in the 11th house of friendships and of hopes and visions for the future. So I feel like there could be maybe like this could somehow affect your relationships with other people or your community that you find yourself in. Maybe you feel like you're in this in between where you don't know what community you want to be in, or maybe you know which one you want to be in, but you're not there yet. Or maybe just you moving has affected your friendships, or even changing your career could affect your relationships somehow. So there is some element here of your interconnectedness being somewhat strained or needing a relief or change. And it's going to inherently change when you change these aspects of your home or career. You guys also have Mercury conjunct Neptune and Pisces in the 9th house. So I feel like your vision for your life is not super clear. There can be some element of your life right now that you feel like you don't know where it's going, and that could be related to living abroad or studying something, but it could just be like the overarching vision and about your life and like where you think you're headed. And it's making a square to Mars in the 12th house. So I feel like the reason you don't know where you're headed right now is because you're still in the contraction period. You're still in the phase of almost loss or letting go. And you're not supposed to have a clear vision because you're meant to be surrendering. If you had a clear vision of what was coming up next, it would be so much easier to let go of what you had, wouldn't it? Just think about a relationship with someone. I don't know if you've ever done this, because I have personally have not done this, but I can imagine that if you're dating somebody, it's a lot easier to break up with that person if you already have another person just lined up, that waiting for you to break up with them. And you just kind of shift into the next phase without that scary in between of facing yourself, dealing with the loss, healing and understanding what happened and why it ended. And then in this liminal space where you don't know what's coming up, and it's uncertainty that feels so big, so looming, and so threatening sometimes. And I feel like the world isn't trying to give you the next lesson plan yet because you're still in that contraction period, and it doesn't want to just give you those back-to-back things. I think it's more beneficial to have you in the liminal space, because what it does is it asks you to surrender and to have faith more. And I think this is ultimately going to develop your faith to a large degree by having these transitions in your life in whatever way they're coming through. But again, I see it really in terms of home and family and career. And then Saturn in the 8th house is making a trine to North Node and the Mars in the 12th house. So I feel like, I think I touched on this already, but yes, as you're allowing yourself to have faith, to surrender, to let things go, the fear will also be released. The need for control. Because a lot of times the 8th house is really representing things outside of our control. It's death. So there's like a death to your old self. And Saturn here wants to have control. It wants to hold on to things and feel like it knows what's coming up. And so I feel like the trine to the North Node is saying, okay, let's just release that. Let's allow this death of the ego, death of the old self, and make this transition, no matter how big or small. And I think it's going to be positive, again, because you guys are having, because this Venus is coming in with the sun here saying, it's going to be all right. It's going to be great. Just let go. You'll trust fall. Oh, I love this, because I did pull the Queen of Wands, which I said at the beginning is really about our confidence. And you see here, she's sitting with her cat, her like sidekick. And I feel like she's so confident and sure of herself because she has learned through these contraction periods that she paired with spirit is unstoppable. And that she doesn't need to have everything figured out all the time, because she has so much strength to withstand all these changes or anything that life throws at her. So it creates this strong core self that when you do open a new chapter will seriously benefit you, because you'll have the capacity to withstand so much. So I love the Queen of Wands. I also pulled Mercury and Capricorn about organization. So I feel like this is your mind focused on work here. Maybe you trying to figure out like what your next move is, and sure, like do that, you know? But at the same time, I feel like don't try to do it all with your mind. It's a lot about trusting yourself right now, trusting your intuition. So if you want to think about things, if you want to plan, if you want to be organized, go for it. But there's always going to be some element here that you need to surrender to, that's out of your control, and that you need to rely on your intuition and not your mind for. I also pulled the black tourmaline. I hope I'm saying that right. So let me just pull up what that might mean for you guys. Black tourmaline brings a message of a need for groundedness. Spirit is speaking and asking you to align yourself and your environment with the energy of the earth. When you do this, you're able to stabilize your body, mind, and spirit to better know yourself and take actions that resonate with the highest good of your true self. Okay, so I feel like this is very important, because I think when we look into the future and we don't have a clear answer of what's going to be happening or what's going to be changing, and we feel like we're having some loss or some transformation happen in our lives, and we're in that liminal space, it can feel very scary. And the solution is saying to ground yourself. Grounding yourself means staying present in this moment and not trying to plan everything ahead of time like this organization card is indicating. This is probably not going to serve you. This is your natural tendency, but I'm getting the feeling that this isn't advice. It's like almost like a warning that instead of trying to plan for everything, what you really need to be doing is taking that energy and focusing it on the present day. I just spoke with my grandma on the phone, and she told me, you know, I can't remember exactly her wording, but she was saying something like, we can only live one day at a time. You know, we only have today. And I was like, you know what? You're so right. Why am I always worrying about things coming up in the future when I have today as a gift. And so this grounding, being present, being in the earth, connecting with nature, really feeling each minute of your life today is going to be the healing energy that you need. So don't try to have it figured out. Allow yourself to release and feel confident in your trust with spirit and with yourself to make things happen for you. So I hope that this resonates. If so, please give me a like and a comment down below. And as always, if you want a reading from me, you can purchase one at willowsbloom.com. Thanks. Bye. All right, up next we have Leo Rising. So for you guys, this full moon in Libra is happening in your third house of communication, of your transportation, of early childhood education, of your neighborhood, of your siblings. So basically, many, many different things. But I'm going to be using the rest of, the aspects happening in your chart to kind of give you clear messages, as well as pull some cards to align with those messages and see what comes through for you guys. So having a moon in the third house, oh, this is so weird. I just pulled this card for another group. I'm going to pull another one just in case. Oh my God. Oop. This is very positive for you guys. Sorry, I just dropped one. I pulled the Four of Wands and the Sun. So if you know anything about tarot, you'll know that those are cards of celebration. And then the Smoky Quartz. Okay. So I like to just kind of look at the notes for a second because I feel like I get more profound messages when I actually take a second to process. Yeah, okay, so I'm getting like tons of energy of other people happening. These are your connections, these are your friends, this is you socializing. There is definitely some healing going on in relationships specifically. Okay, so the moon happening in your third house is also going to be making a trine to Mars, which is conjunct the North Node in your 11th house. So you guys are creating some really foundational relationships in your life this year. Relationships that are meant to impact you on a cellular level, on a soul level, on an intellectual level. And I feel like it could even possibly change the course of your life. And no wonder I pulled the Sun card. The Four of Wands, which is literally about like getting married and weddings. And I'm not saying that that's necessarily going to happen. I mean, for some of you it might, but I feel like what it's saying is that you're going to make certain like lifelong connections now. And so if you feel at all driven to be going out and socializing or being in your neighborhood or meeting new people, do it, because I feel like that is ultimately going to drive things towards a larger purpose for you. Like these are connections that you'll have for a while and be influential in your life. The moon is also making a trine to Saturn in the 7th house. So again, there is some level of commitment here. Saturn moving through your 7th house, a lot of times people get married during that time or divorced because there's some level of commitment. Whether that's a positive or negative commitment is up to you. But yeah, I'm seeing that there could be some commitment here, some things coming up in your relationships here. So this could be that beautiful full culmination period where you're celebrating this time with these people that you love and making these relationships that are impacting you. So I see that could be happening for you guys. But this moon is also making a quincunx to Uranus in the 10th house. So there is some aspect here also of your career kind of getting in the way of your ability to connect with other people. So you might literally be very busy or somehow restricted because of your career, that you feel like somewhat stifled and like you can't fully travel around. Maybe it's even because of COVID and things happening in a more governmental level, or some kind of regulations where you don't have as much control and you want to go out but you can't. There's some kind of like stifling here where you're meant to go out and explore right now, but that might not feel like it's fully possible for you, and that could be a little bit frustrating. But yeah, I feel like also because the Sun, Chiron, and Venus are all conjunct in the 9th house opposite the moon, I feel like what that's saying is there's going to be healing around what you think is possible in relationships for you. Because if you've been operating under this one way of thinking relationships could be, you can really limit yourself. And that tends to happen naturally based off of our previous partners. So we can be with similar types of people and think that that's what a normal relationship is. Like, oh, every relationship, I feel insecure because I'm not sure if the person is trustworthy. You might just have this like thought that that's what's normal. But I feel like this is coming in to heal that right now and heal your mindset around what is actually normal in relationships, what you actually deserve. Because there is some element here of things that I think happening in your past that you didn't deserve. And sometimes it takes a brand new person, someone totally different than who you dated before, to shake you out of that and get you to see that there is so much potential out there for you in terms of relationships that you do deserve better. I'm not saying that all of you are going to change relationships or anything like that, but changing what you think about being possible in terms of relationships is important, as well as communicating that. So if you are in a relationship and you having these epiphanies or these changes in thoughts about how things should be for you and how you should be treated, you need to communicate that very clearly, both to your friendships and to your partner. So if you're like having these belief shifts about yourself, basically, and the way that you're showing up and maybe not getting things in return to the same degree, that's when those conversations are going to become really important. And doing that is going to ultimately help you connect to more aligned people. So if there are people that fall away during that process, it's good because it's going to be filled with people who are going to help push you towards your highest potential. So that's really what I'm seeing with Mars conjunct the North Node in the 11th house, is that you are not done making friends. You are not done making connections. So if there are people who are not on your level and you've communicated that to them and you're trying to give them a chance and they're just not really seeing it, don't bother, because that actually takes up an energetic capacity in your life. And there's only so much of that we have. Really, we only have so much energy for so many friends to be important to us. And so again, those people will be replaced by the universe. You will find new connections that are extremely beneficial to you. And you're going to be like, wow, why did I put up with stuff like that before? When there's so much stuff better out there for me. And I'm not just seeing that in terms of friends. I'm also seeing that in terms of partnerships as well. Maybe you've been kind of dealing with a lot, taking on a lot of responsibilities from partnerships. With Saturn moving to the 7th house, you can suddenly feel like, yeah, you got a lot on your plate. And I feel like what this is saying is that, maybe you need to communicate about some of that so some of the burden doesn't feel like it just all falls on you. I'm going to talk a little bit now about what's happening in the backdrop, and then we'll go into your cards. So Mercury's aligned with Neptune, conjunct Neptune, in Pisces in your 8th house. Interesting, because I feel like wherever this is taking place is basically calling us to tune into our intuition, because we're not going to have all the answers. And the 8th house is a lot about our intimacy with others, our vulnerability with others. And very interesting. There might be some side of you that inherently wants to kind of protect yourself and like use your mind to filter out what you want to share and what you don't want to share. And I feel like what this is saying is to put your mind aside, tap into your heart and your soul and your intuition, and share from a place of vulnerability, using that intuition instead of trying to use your mind to control or limit what you're going to say, because what that ultimately ends up doing is hurting your friendships and hurting your relationships. And it's making a square to Mars in the 11th house. So I feel like if you have the courage and the ability to lead with your intuition at this time, you will find deeper relationships and you will make changes to the existing relationships that you need, whether that's falling away or getting stronger or having new friendships come into your life. And that's definitely going to benefit your romantic partners as well. So yeah, I'm seeing that this is super positive when you have the courage to just speak things exactly as how they are. I feel like you're going to find yourself just really ultimately very happy. Like this is a celebratory time for you. You're making connections. You feel like you can go outside. You feel like you can meet like-minded souls. And it's cool because Jupiter is all about giving us blessings, and this card has Jupiter and Gemini is a blessing of sociability. So again, I feel like If you've been wanting to make new connections, this is your time. This is your impetus. This is your push. But just being very, forthright, very honest with who you are when you're making those friendships, so you feel like you're meeting these people who are mirrors of you and not mirrors of your shadow self. If you're presenting yourself in a very controlled way, you could be attracting shadows. You want to be like your raw, vulnerable, authentic self, and you're going to attract people on the same wavelength. I also pulled a Smoky Quartz card. So this is my new favorite deck by Mystic Rebel. Check her out on Instagram under at the Merhipsy. And yeah, she's a friend of mine and she's just awesome. So I don't know what all of these crystals actually mean yet. So I'm using this deck to learn them. So I'm just going to go ahead and read what this one is about for the Smoky Quartz. Smoky Quartz comes to clear your fears so you can make shit happen. A dissolver and diffuser of negative energy. Smoky Quartz can help you bust through the negative thought patterns and energy cycles, enabling you to detoxify on every level and optimize you for some primo manifesting magic. Yeah, so I feel like that's a lot about what I was saying, in the sense of understanding that you are worth a lot more than you maybe have given yourself the credit for or the capacity to receive in the past. And as you're starting to realize that, as you're starting to assert your needs and be more authentically who you are, sometimes fear can come up from that. Like, oh, if I tell my friend or my partner that I don't like this and this isn't meeting my needs, then they're going to go away or they're not going to love me. And like our fears and insecurities can come up when we're being super vulnerable with people, that they're going to use that against us or that it's ultimately going to hurt us. And so I feel like what this is saying is that this is protection and that you are going to experience those fears, but it's you're meant to do it anyway. I mean, the Mars is aligned with the North Node, which is calling us to all have courage within our relationships to speak our hearts and our minds. And especially for you guys, it's going to lead to this fulfillment and lasting happiness, but you can't get there going the same way that you've always been going. It's time to make different choices. It's time to speak your mind, to assert yourself, to ask for what you need, and then you're actually going to feel fulfilled in the relationships that you have. So that's what I have for you guys, Leo Rising. If this resonates, please like and comment down below. And as always, if you want to purchase a reading from me, you can do so at willowswomb.com. And I hope you have a great day. Bye. All right, up next we have Virgo Rising. So this full moon in Libra is happening in your second house of finances. Okay. All right, I'm going to be pulling some cards for you guys to go along with the astrology messages that I have coming through. Just add some depth to what I have to say. And I feel like it always gives me some clarity. And of course, because I want to show off this new deck that I got. So I'm excited about that. And this is the new deck. It's actually all about crystals. And it's from my friend, the Merhipsy. And it's the Mystic Rebel Oracle deck. So if you guys are interested in learning more about crystals, then you can do what I'm doing, which is basically just pulling cards for other people or for yourself, and then reading what the crystal meaning typically entails and how you can use it for healing yourself. And then eventually I'm hoping that I will have them memorized. Okay. Secrets. Interesting. All right. So as I mentioned, this full moon is happening in your second house. So, I mean, I generally tend to like things happening in the second house, even though according to ancient astrologers, some of them labeled it as a bad house. I personally, in all of my readings, don't see it as a bad house. I really see this playing out positively for people in the fact that full moons lead to culminations, lead to actually physical manifestations of stuff. So it's a possibility at this time to actually start to receive like finances in your career, like starting to see things start to actually come through for you, which is very exciting. The moon is also making a trine to Mars in the North Node in your 10th house. So you guys have been having some serious career moves, and any action that you've been desiring to take in terms of your career is supported at this time. I think it's time for a little bit of adventure. Wow, I pulled the green adventuring. And then when I looked at this Three of Wands card, my first thought was adventure. So I'm feeling like there needs to be some sort of adventure or challenge that you put yourself through in your career in order to grow more fully. So for another group, I was telling them that the concentration in the second house was really about developing certain gifts and skills. And I definitely think that's true for you guys as well, that as you guys are starting to develop skills, it's going to ultimately help you have a more successful and financial career. But I feel like it's more than just skills. For you guys, I feel like it's really about like taking a risk in a sense. So if you've been kind of sitting on some idea, or you're having a desire for some type of adventure where you feel like you're pushing your comfort zone, you're like stepping outside of the box, that's the feeling that I'm getting from you guys, is that's really going to benefit you, because the North Node is about pushing us towards our destiny, pushing us towards our path. And that for you is in your career sector. But with Mars there, it's about being very courageous, about taking a chance. And it can almost lead to like a little bit of impulsivity. And it's not that I want you to be impulsive, but maybe what you wouldn't have done without Mars there is going to be possible now that Mars is there. So if you've been kind of sitting on something and just questioning it, like take the chance, say that thing that you want to say or do that thing that you want to do, especially in terms of career. The moon is also making a trine to Saturn in the 6th house. So I feel like if you're concentrating right now on yourself, your routine, your daily work, that is going to be sort of like the foundation for you in order to be able to take any chances that you are thinking about. It's a lot easier to take risks and take chances when we feel like our needs are being met, when we feel like we're taking care of ourselves. So if you're putting that effort in there and you're working hard at your job and you are exercising every day and you're trying to eat healthy and trying to be mindful of your thoughts, if you're doing those things, then leveling up, or level 2.0 for you, is really going to be not just about the basics of taking care of yourself, but about expanding yourself. And so that's really where I see this like sense of adventure coming in. So if you can just make sure you have those things on lockdown, then you can start to take more chances and more risks. And especially whether that's in terms of investing in something, I definitely could see that coming in. If you've been interested in purchasing something or investing in something that's going to help you with your career, or just you think it's just going to help you in general, I definitely feel like this is a good time to do that. The moon is also making a quincunx to Uranus in the 9th house. So I feel like whenever I see something in the 9th house, I'm automatically feeling like, okay, how are we limiting ourselves? Because the 9th house is a lot about expansion. It's related to Jupiter. It's about our belief about ourselves. It's about our vision for our life. It's even about, studying and traveling. I see heavy 9th house placements in people who focus a lot on personal development. But this is a harsh angle here with this quincunx to Uranus in the 9th house and the moon in the 2nd, which means that there is some lack of harmony in your belief about yourself and taking these risks to make this investment or whatever this is for yourself. So don't hold yourself back. You need to reimagine things for yourselves and try to think more positively about the outcomes here. Because if you're focusing too much on what you might lose, sometimes okay, so let me kind of go back because I'm not explaining it well already. But my therapist and friend Maya, who I highly recommend, she is the shadow dancer on Instagram, I believe. Anyway, so she was saying a lot of times we don't do something because we do something either way because we have this pain of what it would be like if the worst thing happened, essentially. And she's saying a lot of times by not doing that thing or by doing that thing, we're already experiencing pain. We're already experiencing discomfort. So why not take the risk of having it be way better than it could be right now? So I feel like that's kind of what this is saying, that if you're limiting yourself and you're not making a decision out of fear, you're actually like the fear that you're so worried about, like the thing that you're so worried about happening is already happening. Like if you're worried about failure is already happening because you're not taking the chance. So that's pretty much what I'm trying to say, is that this is a time to restructure your beliefs about yourself. and just think more positively. It's interesting because I pulled the Venus in Scorpio card and it says secrets. So maybe this is something that you haven't really been sharing with everyone. If you are interested in taking a new direction, having this new investment, making a new decision in terms of what you want to develop in yourself or your career, there's something that is requiring courage and adventure. Maybe you haven't told people yet because maybe there's some part of you that still isn't sure and kind of insecure about it and you want to keep it a secret. And I say, that's totally fine. It always becomes real when you start telling people though, you know? I mean, I don't think that you necessarily need to tell other people, but if you want to make that commitment to yourself, it can be helpful to tell people. So what's happening in the backdrop is that Mercury is going to be conjunct Neptune and Pisces in the 7th house. So you guys might have a real lack of clarity in terms of relationships right now. That could literally mean like one-on-one clients. It doesn't have to be like an intimate partnership, but it could have a lot to do with a partnership as well. And so if you've been kind of trying to, make decisions in that area of your life, I would say make sure at this time to really do that from the heart and from your intuition instead of relying on the mind. This is your ruling planet, Mercury, as a Virgo rising is your chart ruler, and so it is already in Pisces with Neptune. You're basically super foggy minded. You're not meant to have a total clarity of the mind right now. That's just not what's supposed to be happening. What's supposed to be happening is you're bypassing the mind to get to the heart. So anything in regards to relationships right now really needs to be addressed through the heart. And this Mercury is also making a square to Mars and the North Node in the 10th house. So I feel like this thing about relationships, this is interesting. I feel like you might be like worried about other people's reaction to this adventure, to this new thing that you want to do in terms of your career or whatever change or anything like that. I feel like it's other people that could be slightly concerning you. I think that's why I pulled the secrets card, because having these planets with this lack of clarity in relationships and making a harsh angle with this change that you're supposed to make, I feel like it's basically saying that you might feel like someone else is not quite on board. So yeah, just handle those conversations with a grain of salt and with compassion, because you really need to tune in with yourself and your soul and don't rely too much on other people's opinions. And of course you want to take other people into account, but it is your life at the end of the day. Saturn in the 6th house is also going to be, Saturn, which is in the 6th house for you guys, is going to be making a trine to Mars in the North Node in the 10th house. So yeah, I feel like this is really about what I was saying before about having your daily routines, having that strong foundation to take care of yourself is ultimately going to help you make any shifts in career. If it's in career, any investments for your career, any shifts in what you're trying to learn or develop. But it's going to help you be more adventurous in that area of your life, which I already touched on. And yeah, just to kind of highlight again, I feel like this 3 of Wands is you guys venturing out into new territory and not being scared to do so, really taking life by the horns in essence. And I pulled the Green Adventure, and let me just actually look up what this means for you guys and read it off, because like I said, I'm still working on learning these crystal meanings. All right. You are a natural born leader, babe, and it's time to step up. Green Adventuring brings a message that you are being prepared to ascend into a position of leadership. In this role, you'll be asked to use your heart to guide others with compassion and empathy. It's a fine line to toe, but you're just a divine darling to do it. The heart-centered essence of the Green Adventuring will fill you with an equal balance of loving and assertive energy so you can delegate like a goddess and own your new role. This may show up in your professional life, personal life, or both simultaneously. Okay, so yeah, I feel like that's very similar to what I was saying. I mean, this specifically said leadership, but I feel like this is you taking leadership and ownership over your own life. When you say, I want this, like I'm going to go out and take this and do this thing and expand in this new way and challenge myself in this new way. That is taking leadership over your own life. And that could literally happen in your career, especially with Mars and North Node there. That's a lot about being very assertive in your career, hierarchically above somebody else, kind of telling other people what to do. So that could literally be there, or it can be more figurative in the fact that you are taking leadership of your life, making these decisions to expand and not feel bad about it, but doing it from a loving place, telling other people, you know, I'm doing this for myself, even if they don't always agree. It's what you need to do, and that's what a leader does, is they don't, you know, listen to everyone else when it's coming from inside their heart. All right, so I hope that this resonates with you guys. If so, please leave me a like and a comment down below. And as always, if you want to purchase a reading from me, you can do so at willowsbloom.com. I hope you have a great day. Bye. All right, up next we have Libra Risings. All right, so for you guys, this full moon is happening in your first house. And that's always exciting because I feel like even just having the sun and Venus and Chiron and all those planets in your seventh house is going to give your relationships a boost and definitely allow you to heal some things from your relationships in the past. And I definitely see a lot of this being you guys stepping into your power and your assertiveness, because as a Libra rising, that is not always the first thing that you meet the world with. Unless it depends on the rest of your chart, but as a Libra rising, you're typically more passive and indecisive and want to create harmony versus just taking what you want and saying what you want. And I feel like, oh, I didn't want to pull this card. I feel like, yeah, this is giving you an opportunity to be a little bit more assertive. Oh my God. All right, I'm pulling some cards for you guys, and they just aren't as happy-go-lucky as I was hoping with this full moon. But I mean, sometimes releasing old things from the past in relationships is not happy-go-lucky, you guys. Sometimes it makes us quite emotional, and I think that's probably why I just pulled Venus in Cancer, which says birth. It's like you're birthing a new beginning, and birth is never comfortable. No woman out here is going to tell you that birth feels good. I mean, unless they're like one of those women who have an orgasm during birth for some reason. But you know, birth for the most part is a painful process because it involves this kind of changing of our exoskeletons. Like we have to break our bones in a way, or literally tear our body apart, giving birth to create something new. And so whenever we're tearing apart these old versions of ourselves and these old ways of thinking, these old ways of approaching relationships, it's not comfortable. It involves us going into our shadow self. And it's an ego death whenever we go into our shadow self and we have to fully illuminate that side of ourselves in order to stop operating under it. There is an ego death happening because you have to recognize that you're not perfect, that you're not infallible. This moon is also going to be making a trine to Mars conjunct the North Node in your ninth house. I feel like you guys, with the North Node in your ninth house, you guys have been on the journey of personal expansion for this past year, kind of like on steroids. And with Mars conjunct that, it's basically saying that it's giving you the opportunity to take action now on some of the things that maybe have come up over time throughout your personal development journey. It's like time to actually implement. It's time to actually take the step forward. And sometimes that is going to leave you kind of hurting other people. I don't want to say hurting other people, but you see that she was just in a fight and she's walking away with all these swords. I feel like these swords are your words with other people. Like there might be some things that you actually have to address either within yourself or in relationships with other people. And that's not always the most comfortable thing. And so I feel like, again, that's the Seven of Swords of like, sometimes you just have to say it like it is. And as a Libra rising, that might not be easy because you want to say things how people want to hear them. It's like less blunt, you know? You want people to feel good. There's nothing wrong with that, but it gets to a certain extent where it becomes a shadow where you feel bad so that other people feel good. And I feel like that's what the Seven of Swords is saying is it's time to let that ish go. It's time to think, communicate differently because you've been hurting yourself. So it's time to take action because I think you guys already really know what the changes need to be. They've come to light in the last few weeks and definitely over this past at least half a year. And I feel like as you do that, as you put in the effort and face the uncomfortable situations, you're going to start feeling like you're able to create from like, it's so funny that they got the birth card too. I feel like you guys are literally going to be able to birth new things into your life once you kind of take your power back in that way. Like, okay, I'm not happy with this and this and this in my life. Like, I'm actually going to make these changes. I'm actually going to say it like it is. If I hurt people, I'm sorry. I got to do this. And once you're able to do all that, it's like you're going to feel so empowered that you're going to be able to start putting things out into the world, whether that's trying to find a new relationship, trying to start a new business, start a new passion project, have a child, whatever it is. You're going to be able to do that with a strong sense of self and sense of confidence, and that you're basically going to be unshakable because you are standing up for yourself, which is hard. And having the moon in the first house, this is the house of yourself. So it's literally giving you a chance to prioritize yourself in your life for someone who likely prioritizes other people. This moon is also making a quincunx to Uranus in the 8th house. So there is going to be fears coming up here. There's going to be fears that, and I mentioned this in another group, but I think it resonates in the same way, that once you speak your mind, that suddenly people are going to not want you, that suddenly people are going to take away their love and affection, or you might just have fear around being vulnerable, fear around being unsafe in speaking your mind and saying the things that you need to say. And so I think some of those things could kind of come to the surface at this time to be released, to face those things and not let them be drivers, because the Mars conjunct the North Node should be the driver. The part of you that wants to work on your personal development and actually finalize and make those changes that you've been wanting to make, that should be the driver and not the fear, because the fear is only going to lead you to more unhappiness. Okay, so let's talk about what's going on in the background. So you guys are having Mercury conjunct Neptune and Pisces in your 6th house, and it's making a square to Mars in the 9th house. So there's definitely going to be, I almost feel like when I think about the 6th house, I think of us living a little bit in insecurities, or not insecurity as much as like self-criticism. It's interesting because I feel like with Pisces in the 6th house, you guys could develop sometimes like a victim mentality towards yourself. Like you can kind of like criticize yourself until you become the victim. And then Mercury and Neptune and everything here can give you more of a likelihood to want to escape and not deal with certain things in your life because you're self-critical. So I think it's going to be very important for you to actually make changes so that you don't get self-critical, is basically what I'm saying. Like actually taking massive action, or whatever you want to say, on things that have been sitting on your to-do list, on any epiphanies that you have, any realizations that you have. Like this is a time to implement. Otherwise, I could see like shadow sides of insecurities coming up, escapism coming up, things that can feel like they're haunting you a little bit. So it's time to, you'll be able to release those if you just take one step at a time. So that's kind of like a little warning in a sense for you guys. And then, yeah, I think as you take those actions, again, you'll be able to start creating like crazy. And I think that's what you ultimately want, but you have to kind of sludge through or move through this different like sludge in order to get to that point. It's like you have to wade through these murky waters and make these changes to yourself, and then you can reach this state where you can start creating and attracting and manifesting and enjoying life. So I pulled the Chrysacola card, and this is from my new favorite deck, Mystic Rebel Oracle deck by the Merhipsy. You can find her on Instagram. She's a friend of mine, and this is such a great deck, and I just am super excited to learn all of these new crystals. And the best way to do so is just kind of by practicing, pulling cards for myself with them. And for you guys. Okay, so I'm going to read what this means. Chrysacola comes to tell you that it's time to focus on your home environment. Spend time alone cultivating a safe, comfortable space in which to take a break from the world and perform some self-care. Home is a sacred place. It's your cocoon from which you can be reborn each day in peace and hopefulness. It's your oasis. This is also connected to the throat chakra and invites you to use your home environment as a form of self-expression. Make sure that you feel comfortable in your divine digs. If you don't, you can improve the energy of your crib by adding some living greenery, and then it's giving other options. So basically, it's talking about home and throat chakra. So what I feel like it's saying is, of course, creating a home in which you're comfortable in, but I feel like ultimately it's saying that as you begin to express your needs, you're going to feel more at home in your life, more at home in your body. You're going to feel safer in your relationships because you'll soon start to see, okay, this person is reacting well to my needs, or this person isn't, and there needs to be a shift in relationship. But I think there's some form of expression here that is going to be very important for you to feel like you are actually enjoying the life that you're living. So that's what I'm seeing for you guys, Libra Rising. If you like this, please like and comment down below if it resonates. And as always, if you want to purchase a reading from me, you can do so at willowsbloom.com. Thanks. Bye. All right, up next we have Scorpio Rising. So for you guys, this full moon in Libra is happening in your 12th house. And that means the Sun, Chiron, and Venus are going to be in your 6th house of work, of health, of daily routines. So, okay, so I'm like kind of going slow. I'm just thinking, and I think it always helps to give myself a second to process everything I have written down. I'm also pulling cards for you guys. This one is the Amethyst. Very cool. So these cards are going to help give me some additional insight into the astrology and kind of give you some guidance or basically of what to be looking out for. Oh, the Emperor. Okay. The Emperor. If you guys know anything about tarot, then this is one of the best cards. This is you really sitting inside of your power. Interesting. 10 of Swords is at the bottom of that, or right behind that one. So there's definitely some element, I think, of you guys. I'm going to pull this too. Of you guys letting go some old cycles. And honestly, I feel like a lot of it is coming from yourself, from your thoughts, dragging yourself down. I think it's an ending of that to step into your power of the Emperor. I also pulled Mars in Scorpio, which is about revenge. Interesting, since you guys are Scorpio Rising. Okay, so let's kind of break this down, because having the moon in the 12th house, as I mentioned in the Cancer Rising, is a lot about releasing things. It's about ending chapters. And it's also, which I've mentioned in various of these, is that it's also about things that are unconscious coming to light, because a full moon is illuminating something. Like it oftentimes we have revelations, epiphanies, realizations around a full moon period. And the 12th house is everything unseen. And that includes our conscious mind. It becomes unconscious in the 12th. And so it's possible that you can have things illuminated right now that is going to help you ultimately step into this role of the Emperor in your own life. But you can't be the Emperor if you're operating in the same way that you've always operated in, because what you did before led you to the 10 of Swords, you guys. And not to say that you're doing something wrong, but yeah, something in your mindset wasn't right. And it led you to this 10 of Swords period where you're dragging yourself down with your thoughts. And I feel like that's something that's been coming up with Scorpio Risings like more recently, honestly. So this is some kind of like continuation for you all. But yeah, this moon is making a trine to Mars, conjunct the North Node in the 8th house. So the 8th house is definitely, I feel like, again, a closing of a cycle. It's where transformation occurs as we start to shine light on some of our fears, some of our insecurities, some of our self-limitations. And so it's shining a light on that and basically giving us the opportunity to let some of those things go and face our fears head on. I don't feel like this is super action oriented like I did with some of the other ones, because having the moon in the 12th, I think that this actually takes a little bit more respite, more relaxation, more time alone. to go deeper into your soul and into what has to be let go of. So yeah, I could see this benefiting you at this time to take a little bit of a break and focus on self-care and time alone. This moon is also making a trine to Saturn in the 4th house. So I definitely feel like some of these limitations could come from family or from growing up, and they have been unconsciously driving you and leading to certain fears and insecurities in your life. So like, yeah, basically your childhood has had some effect on you, and now I think we're always releasing things from our childhood. We're always working on things from our childhood and trying to be better people. But I definitely feel like that's the focus for you at this moon, is like, okay, some of the stuff has been there for a while. Some of the stuff has been buried deep. Let's unbury it. Let's dig it up. Let's actually address some of these issues. Do you want to say hi? Come here. Come here. This is Luna. Hello. You want to eat? All right. I'm going to feed her in a second. But yeah, she's a good girl sometimes. She got into my brother's weed butter the other day, and it was not good, you guys. It was not good. I thought she ate something poisonous, because she was laying down, but she kept like falling over. She wasn't actually falling over, but she thought she was, so she kept flinching and going back. And I took a video of it, and I just felt so bad. And I called the vet, and they're like, "Are you sure she didn't get into weed? Because it is Colorado after all." And I was like, "No, she did." She actually did. Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, so what's interesting also is that this moon is making a quincunx to Uranus in the 7th house. So I feel like a quincunx is is kind of a hard angle, because a lot of times what's happening with the stress that a quincunx brings up for us is also kind of out of our awareness, in the fact that it's building in the background and even internally, but it's not always something that we're like super aware of, essentially. So it's there, but maybe it's not like insane enough for us to address it. So I do feel like there could be some specific issues coming up in your relationships that are a little bit neglected, in a sense. Like maybe there is some thoughts that you haven't been really wanting to address in terms of relationships, and it could feel uncomfortable because it's time to maybe address some of those things. So yeah, I feel like a lot of what you're releasing is insecurities, is fears, things from your family, like I was mentioning. But then there's also the added element of something going on in your relationship, or something that has happened in your relationship, or something that you're thinking about in the future in regards to your relationship, that you might feel like not totally comfortable in dealing with right now. So if that's the case, I totally understand. But at some point it'll come to the forefront, and this could be a really good time to address it, just because Venus is with the sun, and it is a full moon in Libra. It is about relationships. So if there is something that you want to address, it could be a good time to do so. But yeah, I think I'm going to come back and summarize a little bit more about that in a second when I read the backdrop energy and then the cards. Okay, so what's happening in the backdrop astrologically, meaning not interacting with this moon in particular, is that Mercury is conjunct Neptune in Pisces, which is in your 5th house of creativity and relationships, or dating, I should say, like fun, basically. So this is a really, really great time for you guys to have some kind of creative outlet, because all of these energies combined, to me, just scream cathartic artistic release. So if you've been wanting to do anything remotely artistic or creative, please do that around this time. It's going to be very beneficial, and I think that's actually going to help you release some of these insecurities and fears that you have. I don't know how, but I do think it's going to help you gain in confidence and become, again, this emperor. It's almost like when you allow yourself to just fully express the creativity that's residing within your soul, it's almost like you're unblocking like a dam that can be blocked through emotions, the insecurities, the fears that can block you up. And it's like the creativity comes through and rushes through your body like blood to clear the system, to clear those blockages and connect you more to your power. There's something very empowering about creating something. You look back when it's done, you're like, wow, I did that. So I feel like that's actually really going to help you right now. And you guys, I also pulled this Mars in Scorpio sign. So I feel like this, I mean, it says revenge. I don't really see it as revenge because I'm talking to Scorpio Rising. So having Mars here, I feel like is really just drawing my attention to the Mars in the 8th house already, which is aligned with the North Node. And like I said to you guys, this is really about releasing those fears, insecurities, a need to control. And I feel like Mars, I feel like it's just emphasizing that basically. I think having Mars here is basically just saying that you guys can do this. Like the 8th house, for modern astrologers, they link that to Scorpio already. So this is like your energy. You're coming into your essence, but you can only do that when you leave behind these thought processes. Like this 10 of Swords is just you, one thought after another, hurting yourself. And the thoughts are from the past. Our thoughts are from childhood. Their thoughts are something you've grown up with. They've accumulated over lots and lots of time. They're neural pathways that have been thoroughly engraved in your brain. And of course, it's hard to break free from those. But as you do that, you're stepping into the North Node, which is in the 8th house, which is linked to you. So it's like you're really stepping into your purpose, your power, this Emperor card. So you have so much to win and nothing to lose, essentially. All right, I pulled the Amethyst card for you guys. And this is from, I don't know if I told you this already, but this is from the Mystic Rebel Oracle deck, which is from a friend of mine at the Merhipsy on Instagram. And she is so amazing, and I highly suggest you check it out. I'm actually trying to learn the crystals by looking at this guidebook. So this is what it says about Amethyst. Spirit knows that you've been toiling over an important decision, feeling unsure of what to choose. So you've been sent a helper in the form of Amethyst. The stone is calming and integrating, helping you to feel self-assured and balanced as you consider your options. It's good at finding a middle ground, the mix of extreme energies that pull your mind into different directions of what ifs that may come to pass based on this decision. Okay, I feel like it's not really about a decision. Maybe some of you do have a decision, this is calling you to it. But I think really what it's saying is about this feeling of being self-assured and having emotional equilibrium, and you focusing on the what ifs. I feel like that is you operating from the 10 of Swords energy. So it's basically saying that if you've been questioning yourself and you're having these insecurities, Amethyst is actually really grounding to help you feel more self-assured, to feel more confident, and feel more like this Emperor. So if there is something that you've been wanting to go after, you have that potential, you have that capacity, you're the Emperor, but really you've just been limiting yourself with your own thoughts and your own mind. But it's honestly not your fault because that shit comes all from childhood. So it's just a lot to work through, basically. But you guys are awesome. Thank you so much for staying tuned. If you like this, please give me a thumbs up and a comment down below if it resonates. And as always, if you want to purchase a reading from me, you can do so at willowsbloom.com. Thanks. Bye. All right, up next we have Sagittarius Rising. All right, so you guys, I'm going to be pulling some cards for you guys. I am pulling some new cards. You haven't seen these before from, that's so weird. I pulled this for another group. From the Mystic Rebel Oracle deck. And it's all crystals. And this is from a good friend of mine at the Merhipsy on Instagram. Check her out. She's intuitive, empath. She's awesome. And this is the crystal that I pulled. So hopefully I can remember what it said. I'm trying to learn the meaning of the crystals by looking up, the guidebook information. But I literally just pulled it and I feel like I already forgot, you guys. Okay. I'm just going to do a quick shuffle. So this moon for you guys, this moon in Libra is happening in your 11th house. And it's making a trine to Mars in the North Node in the 7th house of relationships. And trining Saturn in Aquarius in your 3rd house. Page of Swords. So this is definitely bringing huge highlight to your relationships. I mean, for everyone, but especially you guys, because the moon is in your 11th house of friendships, of connections, of the groups that you feel like you're a part of. And it's making a trine in Mars in the North Node in the 7th house of your intimate partnerships. So yeah, I'm definitely feeling like you guys are heavily focused right now on your connections with other people at this time. So decision, Mars and Gemini. Okay. So yeah, let me just kind of think about this for a second and then read your tarot cards with everything. First of all, I just want to say that the cards that I pulled, actually, I just drawn to them initially, so let me do that first. They are all really, it seems like they're all directed towards clarity of the mind. We've got the Page of Swords, so this is like a person who's kind of like just getting started in terms of having a new idea. She's just starting to get clarity about this idea. It's the beginning process of something. And then Mars in Gemini literally says decision. And Gemini can be indecisive or lack clarity. And Mars is like that motivation to overcome that. And then the clear quartz, I think, to me was saying like getting clear on exactly what this decision is or on your mindset around something. Let me see what it says about clear quartz in addition to what I'm saying. Time to get crystal clear with yourself and with the universe. Okay, yeah, so that was right. All right. Yeah, so there might be something where you feel like you're lacking clarity or you're not totally, like you're being wishy-washy about. That's at least what the cards are saying. And because this moon is happening in the 11th house, it could be even related to your friendships. But I feel like the lack of clarity for all of us is coming from Mercury conjunct Neptune and Pisces. And for you guys, that's in the 4th house of home and family. So you guys might be lacking clarity around like literally where you want to live, or around some relationship with a family member or anything related to home and family and environment in that sense. So I feel like maybe that lack of clarity could be impacting your relationship. So maybe it's like, oh, I don't know if I want to move in with this person. That could literally be an explanation of this, but there's so many different ways to interpret it. But there is some lack of clarity, and it's basically saying that it's either around the topic of home and family, or it could impact that in some way. And that is also going to impact your partnerships. So it's almost like I feel like you need to get clarity before you talk to people in your life about it. So you might, with the moon in the 11th, you might be going to your friends and asking them for advice about how to pursue this thing or what they think you should do. And I feel like your friends can offer you a lot of insight and a lot of support. But at the end of the day, you need to make that decision for yourself. So I don't know who this message is for, but it's for someone. So I hope that it's resonating with some of you. And I also feel like you guys are healing your soul a little bit, because with having the Sun, Chiron, and Venus all in the 5th house of our pleasures in life, I feel like it's trying to literally heal you through the enjoyment of life, like the comforts of life, you know, a warm hug, a meal, like your hobbies, the things that you love to do, hang out with animals, like the things that lift up your spirits, are drawn into focus at this time and offering you an opportunity for deeper healing just by pursuing things that you truly do enjoy. And I think that's also going to bring more clarity of mind to you as well. It's like the more that you take a little bit of time apart to focus on just making yourself happy, the clearer things will start to come into focus for you about what in your life matters and what decision you should make moving forward if there is a decision for you. And sometimes having a full moon can bring endings or resolutions to issues. So maybe there are literally issues in your friendships or your partner that need to be resolved, and you have to have like the clarity of mind before you can move forward and talk to them to resolve that. Whether that is like releasing a friendship, having a new friendship, or talking about the relationship in some way. But again, there's this need for clarity, for clarity, for clarity, for clarity. Because if you're not sure, there's no way you can properly communicate that for the other person to be sure. They're only going to be able to understand you as much as you understand you. So there's a limitation there. But I feel like you guys could try to be... Okay, so this moon is making a quincunx to Uranus in the 6th house. And the 6th house is often linked to like Virgo energy. And one of the things that I'm getting from this is like a sense of control and trying to control the outcome, trying to control yourself. That could possibly be why there is this lack of clarity or this indecision of like, okay, well, you know, if I want to anticipate the outcome and control everything, then I need to like have all the answers right now and make the decision from a place of having all of the answers. And that's just not how life works most of the time. So sometimes we just have to make a decision checking into our intuition. I feel like that's really what this is saying, is get super clear by going within to decide things. And, you know, it's helpful to communicate with other people to go within too. You don't need to just be alone, especially with this moon in the 11th house. I'm seeing an impact on relationships, or this even communicated with in terms of relationships and that affecting you and helping you. But I'm definitely seeing other people here. So I'm not telling you to just isolate, but there needs to be like a strength, like the strong decision coming from your intuition, and then communicating that more to your relationships rather than just relying on other people to make the decision. So I know I know this is like really specific. It doesn't have to be that specific, but there is some need to gain clarity around certain elements of your relationship and letting go of that sense of control around how that should look or how things should turn out. If you don't have the clarity, if you communicate from a place of confusion or not from your intuition, I could see that causing distress in the relationship that you have. But once you do have that solid sense of what you believe and what you want, it will actually truly benefit your relationship and you will be able to grow. So you have an opportunity here to grow with somebody in some sense. And if you're not like dating someone, it could be someone that you feel close with. It could be anyone in your life that you feel close with. It's like you need clarity around it. You need to communicate it, but that clarity has to come from your intuition. And then once you have that, you communicate with them and your relationship will grow and prosper. Yeah, so I don't know. That kind of felt like it was out there. I hope that resonates with you guys. If not, or even if so, let me know down below and give me a like. And yeah, if you want to purchase a reading from me, you can do so at willowswomb.com. Thanks. Bye. All right, up next we have Capricorn Rising. So for you guys, this full moon in Libra is happening in your 10th house of career. And I'm also going to be pulling some cards for you guys to go along with the astrology. This is my new favorite deck from my friend, Zoe from at the Merhipsy. And it's a crystal deck. So I'm basically going through and trying to learn all these different crystals and the meaning of them through her guidebook. And they're just so beautiful. It's the Mystic Rebel Oracle deck, so I highly recommend checking it out. So for you guys, obviously I just pulled the Fluorite card, which is actually something that my last boyfriend gave me. And it's like this beautiful stone that's a mix between purple and green. So that's like a lot of the heart chakra and third eye chakra coming in for you guys. So I don't know if that's at all relevant, but we'll see. The Justice card. And Mercury in Scorpio extremism. Interesting. Okay, so let's have a look at what the astrology says and then we'll just tie it all together. So having a full moon in the 10th house can bring success in career, especially I think that it's not just something that is happening randomly. I think you guys have been working very hard for a long time. You guys have the North Node in the 6th house, which is a lot about putting in a lot of effort, basically, and not always getting the rewards right away. With Mars there, It's telling you to continue to put in that effort, to continue to grind. Don't give up on that work ethic. It is paying off, and this full moon is a first sign of that. You guys, no wonder why I pulled the freaking Justice card, because it's a balancing of energies. You've been putting a lot and a lot and a lot out there, and now it's finally time for you to reap the rewards. And what is so beautiful about this is that Venus is involved in this. It's opposite the moon, is conjunct the sun, which is a lot about being rewarded monetarily for the things that you've done, especially because the moon is also making a trine to Saturn in your second house. So it's like the diligence that you've put into your finances and to your work are going to start paying off, and you're going to start feeling and seeing abundance all around you actually manifest. What I love too is that this fluorite, like I just told you, it's like this stone that's equally purple and green is again balancing here. So it's like you've been putting so much of your heart and your soul and your intuition and energy into your business, and it's, or whatever you're working on. Sorry, I just have a business. So but whatever it is in your life, and now you're going to start seeing that actually be paid back. And let me go actually grab that fluorite for you, because it's just so pretty and I want to show you. So I hope you can see this now. This is the green side, and then this is the purple side. So this is you guys really, again, having that balance here. So this is a fluorite, the crystal that I pulled for you. So maybe that has specific importance for you. I hope it does. Okay. So yeah, I'm definitely seeing some finances come in here for you guys. You might be a little bit frustrated because there's a quincunx to Uranus in your 5th house, which is about the joys and pleasures of life. So you might feel a little bit restricted. I think I've maybe talked about this before in another reading, but you might feel like, okay, I've been putting in a lot of work. Like, when am I going to get something in return? You know, I've been restricting myself in terms of what I do because I've been very responsible and maybe not taking as much time for my friends and just being out and enjoying life as I would like to be. So I feel like there can be a little bit of like emotions coming up in that sense. But because you're starting to get things in return, I feel like you're going to feel like it was worth it, essentially. And then what's happening in the backdrop is that you guys have Mercury conjunct Neptune in Pisces in your 3rd house, and it's making a square to Mars in the North Node in the 6th house. So I feel like okay, so wherever Mercury is right now, I'm feeling like we're having a lack of understanding, a lack of clarity. Because it's in Pisces with Neptune, it's just a lack of clarity. What's interesting is that the 3rd house is literally about our conscious mind. So you could just have like a general lack of clarity in your mind right now. You could feel like a little bit hazy or like foggy in terms of your brain. If you've been trying to like plan ahead, like a good Capricorn Rising typically does, you might feel like you don't have total certainty. You might not know your next approach, or you might not know your next step. Or you maybe are feeling like communication is a little bit strained at this time, likely stemming from a sort of like lack of clarity as well. And so this could be feeling like it's impacting your work. Like maybe you're having trouble. I don't feel like you're having trouble, but it's basically saying that to not let that stop your grind, essentially. Like keep grinding, keep going, even if you don't have all the answers right now, because I think the lack of clarity is normal. So if you don't have that like set plan, it's okay. Just make sure that you're putting in the steps every single day, because it is going to start paying off with this Justice card. You are absolutely going to start receiving blessings from that. And I do think that the more that you are very wise about how you use your resources and how you use your skills to try to really make the most out of it, and not just grinding for the act of grinding just because you have this limiting belief that you need to work this many hours a day. I'm not seeing that benefiting you. I'm seeing you guys needing to really check in and use wisdom and discernment to decide, where am I getting the most mileage out of my abilities? Like, how can I be very decisive with what I'm spending my time on, so that when you do grind, you are taking like 10 steps forward and not just one step forward at a time. And that's when you're really going to start cultivating a strong sense of abundance. I also just think generally, because the Sun, Chiron, and Venus are in your 4th house, it's going to bring about healing in regards to home and family. So if there is things that need to be healed there, it's a good time for that. It can bring more harmony, more understanding, releasing anything from the past in those areas. But I'm seeing the major focus to be on your career and you manifesting some of these things that you deserve. It's interesting to have Mercury and Scorpio here, extremism. He's like shoving this thing into her face, and it's almost like he wants her to believe what he believes, which honestly, no offense, Scorpios, it can be quite intense, and sometimes, you know, they want people to understand them and be on their side. So Mercury and Scorpio could kind of push that belief because it'd be like so intense about it. So I feel like this is almost like a warning to you to not become too extreme in your work. That's really where this Saturn in the 2nd house is coming in, about how to use your resources really wisely, energetically as well, instead of just trying to go to one extreme of like, okay, now I'm like, my business is really picking up, I'm going to keep working super hard. Well, maybe it's better to work smarter and not harder. So I think in that sense, it's warning against extremism. And the other sense, I think it could be warning against any kind of obsessive tendencies. So if you do get like hyper focused on certain things, especially work related things, and you get very invested in the outcome, I feel like it's almost telling you to not worry so much about it, not obsess or overly focus on it. I think Capricorns tend to work really, really hard. And this is saying to try to manifest and not just work really hard, not just push everything from your own efforts out. I do think you're going to be putting in effort, but there has to be an equal degree of the internal work done in order to help you manifest these things, in order to work smarter, so that you don't fall into any kind of extremes of workaholism, which is characteristic of Capricorns. Okay, so now I'm going to actually read what Fluorite says in this book for you guys. And we'll see if we can connect the dots between what I was just saying. Okay, Fluorite. The flawless guidance of Fluorite is no joke. This stone comes forward to let you know that you've got to connect the head, heart, and soul. You can't make fully informed or discerning decisions from just one of these places of processing. Fluorite was designed to perfectly connect mental cognition, intuitive vision, and emotional intelligence. These are the 3 most fruitful and essential points of your being for converting insight into action. Taking just one of these is operating from a partial picture. Yes. Okay, exactly. So I feel like you guys are manifesting, but it's just like I was saying, you can't just do it all from the head. You can't just take action steps with logic and think that that's enough. You need to actually be tapped into your intuition and have your 3rd eye open and your heart open, which is literally what the colors were coming in from this, the 3rd eye and the heart, in order to help you. So you have to have the head, the mind, the heart, and the 3rd eye or spiritual insight to help you actually manifest these goals. So don't push is what I'm saying, essentially. Don't force, but have all those faculties together, and then you're actually going to achieve your final result. So I do feel like that was in line with what I was saying. All right, Capricorn Rising, I hope that this resonated for you guys. If so, give me a like or comment down below. And as always, if you want to purchase a reading from me, an astrology reading, you can do so at willsbloom.com. Thanks. Bye. All right, up next we have Aquarius Rising. So I'm going to be pulling some cards for you guys to go along with this moon. And this full moon in Libra for you all is happening in your 9th house, which has a lot to do with overseas travel. So maybe some of you guys are doing that. Or it has a lot to do with higher education, personal development, our beliefs about ourselves, even religious beliefs and spiritual beliefs. So if any of these things are resonating, that could be the message for you. Interesting. So I'm pulling some cards, again, to go along with these astrological messages. And I'm using a brand new deck that I got from a friend of mine, and I highly recommend it. It well, the card I pulled for you guys is Sodalite, and it's specifically showing crystals and the meaning of the crystals. And so this is how I'm intending to learn about all of these crystals. And it's from the Mystic Rebel Oracle deck by @LemerHipsy on Instagram. I hope you guys check her out. She's awesome, such a good person. And so it's really exciting to learn about what these crystals mean, because it's hard to just kind of do it on your own. And then having these and pulling and doing readings for people is so helpful. So anyway, yeah, so this full moon, like I said, is happening in your 9th house, and it's making a trine to Mars and conjunct the North Node in your 5th house, and a trine to Saturn in your 1st house. So you guys are going through a lot, having Saturn moving through your 1st house, and even having Jupiter move through there. It's kind of like a total reconstruction of your being. So last year you had these planets moving through your 12th house, which was leaving you probably very confused about your life direction. You probably didn't have all of the answers at that time. And it was more about like the loss, the contraction period, the ending of a cycle. And now that they moved into your 1st house, when they first shifted into Aquarius, you're already feeling like you're making progress and you're redesigning your life. So you kind of scrap the old, you're starting with the new. So you've been doing a lot of this work on yourself already to kind of step up further into your purpose. And now that you've let go of that old cycle, you're really on the up and up. And I feel like it's a really great time for you just connecting with other people. I pulled this 3 of Cups card, which you can see they're drinking, they're celebrating, they're having fun, they're with their friends. And I love this because the moon in the 9th house is making a trine to Mars and the North Node in the 5th house. Having the North Node in your 5th house, and even Mars right now, is going to give you a push to go honestly enjoy these parts of life, to enjoy celebrating and connecting with other people. And so I feel like it's kind of giving you a green light to go out and make more connections and just kind of party a little bit, honestly, and have fun. And the moon in the 9th house is honestly just very optimistic in general, because the 9th house is really where we develop like our hope and our faith for the future and our optimism that things are going to turn out all right. So I feel like you guys almost like turned a corner in an essence. Like you were working so hard on yourself, on like releasing a lot of these things. And now that you're rebuilding and starting anew, it's like the universe just wants to give you a little bit of a pat on the back and a little bit of a break and say, yeah, like just enjoy this time. Enjoy this time with your connections, and have optimism for the future, because you have done a lot of work. You still have work ahead of you, but if you can stop and take a moment to just enjoy and like look ahead and think very positively about what's coming up, you're going to just continue to attract more beautiful things in your life. I also pulled the Saturn and Gemini card, which is about concentration, which is interesting, because I feel like I'm just sitting here talking about like enjoying yourself, enjoying life. And then this card, this card is telling you more to concentrate and be serious. I mean, Saturn and Gemini, like Geminis have trouble concentrating. And then Saturn is like where we rope ourselves in and say, no, you're going to do this. You're going to be responsible. So Saturn and Gemini is kind of like, you want to dabble in things, you want to experiment, but then Saturn is saying, no, let's get serious, let's concentrate. So there could be this element here of you guys working on that part of yourself where you're trying to figure out what you want to concentrate on. Again, you're in the rebuilding phase with Saturn in your 1st. You don't fully have all the answers yet, you don't have all the pieces yet, but they're starting to come in. And so as they're coming in, I think it's going to be important for you to really tune into your intuition about what to focus on, what to concentrate on during that time, in order to kind of put more energy and effort into growing that one part of yourself or that one part of your life. So just be careful about things coming in that kind of, I don't want to say take you off course, because I do feel like you're meant to be just enjoying things right now, honestly, and just dabbling. But then the concentrate card is like, okay, once you found that thing that feels really good, it's time to be aware that you're not supposed to be dabbling as much anymore, in a sense. So that timing will be different for all of you. This moon in the 9th house is also making a quincunx to Uranus in the 4th house. So I feel like a lot of this is your home and family kind of feeling like they're weighing you down in a sense. Like you might feel like you have some responsibilities there or some restrictions because of your home or your family, like literally where you live or taking care of kids or like taking care of your parents or some kind of like responsibility there where you feel like, you know, I want to be doing these new things. I want to be trying out these things. I want to be socializing and stuff, but I have this like thing going on. So that's the only way in which I see you kind of feeling slightly inhibited and maybe a little bit frustrated. But ultimately, you're still meant to be optimistic. You're still meant to be enjoying yourself and doing these things to the extent in which it's, you know, reasonable and responsible for you to do so in your life. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the backdrop of what's going on as well. So you guys have Mercury conjunct Neptune and Pisces in your second house. That's squaring Mars in your fifth house. So I've been telling everybody, wherever you have Mercury conjunct Neptune in Pisces, you're going to have a lack of clarity. And it's interesting because the second house is a lot about, I mean, it's our resources. It's like the house after the self. The first house is the house of self. The second house is like the house where we start attaching things to ourself to better understand how we are. So once we're born, we have a name, we have values, we have characteristics, we have skills, we have possessions, and that's how we build a persona and start to understand how we're different from our environment around us. And so there can actually be a lack of clarity in that sense. Like these things that you use to all build yourself with and to understand yourself with, you might actually not feel like those are giving you more clarity in your life. You might feel like those are not, like you don't actually know what your skills are. You might be still trying stuff out and not know what you're really good at yet, and you're still figuring yourself out, and it's totally okay. So if you guys are having a lack of clarity around those things, or even around money, or even around like, you know, like loss of money, because sometimes Neptune can be like that, just know that you're not meant to have all the answers in terms of those attributes of yourself or in terms of your possessions and your resources. You're meant to make decisions now from your intuition and from your gut. So if your intuition is telling you to handle your money in a certain way, then do that. If your intuition is telling you to develop a certain trait or to like go learn a new skill, then do that. It's basically going to be your green light, your guidepost for making decisions and kind of experimenting with things until you find your core of who you are, and then stick with that and like concentrate on that. But that's going to take some time. This will evolve over time. That is also going to be making a square to Mars in the fifth house. So I feel like as you do listen to your intuition and you trust that, you'll start to develop your like your more creative side. I do feel like there's a lot of creation that's coming in here, and I feel like once you start listening to that intuition, it's going to tell you what you need to make in order to feel like you're coming fully alive, in order to feel like you're fully yourself. And yeah, as you work on that, you're going to step into this energy here of like, hell yeah, I've been making this thing. I've been having fun doing these different things. And like, I'm going to celebrate that. I want to celebrate myself and enjoy this moment in time. So I'm just seeing this like sense of ease, honestly, for the most part with this fifth house energy and the ninth house energy. I feel like it's just overall a more positive experience for you guys. So I was looking up what sodalite meant for you guys, and it says, okay, you're way too hard on yourself, but don't let that be one more thing to beat yourself up over. Sodalite is here to help you face your shadow aspects with love, compassion, and patience. It opens the third eye to help you see yourself as you truly are, clearing the fog of judgments and expectations that you may have been unwittingly imposed upon yourself. Comparison is a poisonous and pointed tool of your ego, and its sole purpose is to trick you into thinking that you're not amazing. Sounds like it's been clocking in over time. So it's basically helping you to dislodge the fear implanted deep within your subconscious so that you can stop comparing and judging yourself. I love that. I think that's so beautiful, and I feel like this is giving you an opportunity now that you're learning about yourself in so many deep ways. It's giving you the opportunity to just love yourself more. So maybe picking up some sodalite and having some more compassion with yourself, some more love for yourself will help you through this process, because it's hard. I mean, when you don't have everything figured out in your life, you might feel like you're not in the place where you can be celebrating, but you are. And yeah, I don't know. I just think that this is going to be really helpful for you guys to be very loving and gentle with yourself as you're exploring, because you're learning a lot about yourself and you've honestly been through a lot, and having Saturn move through your first house is still a lot. So you guys are going through a deep transformation. So give yourself the time and the grace to move this with ease. So that's all I have for you guys. If you like this, please comment down below and give me a thumbs up on the video. And yeah, if you want to purchase a reading, you can always do so at willsbloom.com. And I hope you have a great day. Bye. All right, and the last one we have is Pisces Rising. So for you guys, this full moon in Libra is happening in your 8th house. All right. Interesting. So I feel called to randomly show you this stone. I don't know if turquoise has any significance for you, but this could be beneficial in some respect at this time. And yeah, or the color blue. Okay, so I'm also going to be pulling some cards for you guys and talking about the astrology more in depth. That's so weird. I just pulled a turquoise card. What is going on? Okay. Anyway, I guess it's not a surprise, right? That's exactly what's supposed to happen. These messages are supposed to confirm each other. 3 of Pentacles. You know, astrology is a divination tool. Ace of Cups. Okay, guys. I feel called to pull 1 extra card. So, yeah, tarot cards are divination tools, and so is astrology. So they work super well together when you are open to it. Saturn and Pisces, loss. Don't be scared. I think a lot of times the words are not actually relevant to the message. I don't know though. The 8th house can be about loss. That can be literally about death. So it's always possible. I mean, some of you could have family members pass at this time, especially with this card here, and that could be emotionally challenging for you guys. But I don't think that's a message for very many of you. I think that's not as likely. But it is possible. And before I kind of get into the message, I want to see what this turquoise means, because clearly that's coming up for a very specific reason. And I feel like that's going to help guide the rest of the reading here with this astrology. So let me read you. Wait, I don't know if I shared really quick that this is my newest deck. It's the Mystic Rebel Oracle deck from my friend Merhipsy at the Merhipsy on Instagram. It's so beautiful, and I'm learning all of these meanings of these stones because I don't know them. So it's helpful to look them up. Okay. Are you maybe overreacting, a little too salty, a little too sure that you're right and they're wrong? Turquoise is here to say probably a little. That's okay. You are allowed to your spectrum of emotions about this situation. Your guides have simply sent turquoise to you as a gentle reminder that you are a sensitive soul and your emotions may be getting the best of you. Give yourself time to recenter and process what you feel before trying to express yourself to others. Turquoise is perfect for balancing the throat chakra so that you're able to articulate your feelings with lovingly assertive clarity. It helps that you speak your truth and honor yourself without biting someone else's head off. Better yet, let turquoise rock your world by showing you the whole truth and exploring the situation from every side to help you clearly decide how you truly feel beyond your initial overreaction. Remember, every perspective is real and valid to the person experiencing it. It's when you can learn to see the full picture with a rational mind and compassionate heart that things get handled right. Interesting. So it's about overreacting, maybe thinking that you're right. That's interesting because you guys do have Mercury and Neptune in your sign in your first house. So, I mean, you can definitely see things from your point of view when Mercury is in your sign in your first house. That has to do with you. So there is that possibility here where you're seeing things more so from your perspective and possibly need to branch out and see things from other perspectives. Alternatively, it could just kind of have you fully more in your feelings, if that makes sense. I mean, it was talking about overreaction, and as a Pisces, you guys feel very strongly. You'll take on a lot of emotions. And so I think that with, I think that that could be a possible expression that's coming through at this full moon for you guys, is that it's illuminating your 8th house, which has a lot to do with our fears and our insecurities. And honestly, that's where we banish our shadow side too. All of the emotions that we don't like, all of the thoughts that we don't like, we put it all into the box of the 8th house and try not to deal with it. We try not to feel it. We try not to let it overcome us. And I feel like sometimes it can come up and bite us because we're trying to cage it in a way. And I feel like this is saying the turquoise will actually help you at this time in order to help you basically just balance your emotions, so you're not reacting from the shadow self, but you're just allowing yourself to feel how you feel in the moment, but also allow others to feel how they feel. And not let the feelings that you have overcome you, which sometimes can happen, honestly. So the moon in the 8th house is making a trine to Mars in the North Node in the 4th house. And a trine to Saturn in the 12th house. I mean, it is possible. Okay, for a select few of you, it is possible to have a family member pass away because of the 4th and the 12th house being involved here in the 8th house. So I'm just going to say that if that is for some of you, maybe the turquoise can be a very healing and grounding card so that you don't, or crystal, so that you don't feel overcome by grief. So that's just like a message for a very small amount of you. But I just have to say that because I see that. But really what I'm seeing with the North Node being in your 4th house and now Mars there is this need to build a foundation, and that you've been working on this already. But Mars is kind of giving you that extra bit of energy to build that foundation. And I like that Saturn is in Pisces here because it's asking you to put in that work to build that foundation. But I feel like this full moon is actually about releasing or like facing some of those shadows that maybe you don't want to face, particularly in relationships, because that's when our shadows come out the most, really. But it's like you have to face that in order to start building that foundation. It's like that is the prerequisite in order for that to occur. And it's trining Saturn in the 12th, which is also about releasing a lot of super negative habits of self-undoing, which honestly, Pisces, because you guys feel so strongly, can turn to poor habits of escapism or something that is self-sabotaging. And so the trine to Saturn in the 12th is basically saying that once you start facing the shadow side, you're going to be able to better release the negative habits, the escapism, and you're going to better be able to work on this foundation that you have in front of you. That's your North Node. That's your North Star. You're supposed to be building your home and family right now, whether that's buying a house, starting a family, or literally like building a business and trying to set the foundation of your life, like an internal home. There is some foundation that you're working towards, but you don't want to undermine yourself through the shadow of yourself. You don't want to make decisions out of fear. You don't want old habits creeping up and keeping you from living your purpose. And that's really what I'm seeing as a possibility here. And so I think as you work on this, you're going to start to also kind of receive some type of blessings possibly in your finances, because you have Sun, Chiron, and Venus in your 2nd house. So as you release this, you're going to gain confidence in yourself. You're going to heal parts of yourself as you face your shadow and own it and accept it. And not try to be right, but see where you are wrong and where you're right. Like basically seeing the full spectrum of yourself instead of disowning part of yourself and creating parts like we all do. As you own that during this full moon, you're going to also develop a sense of confidence and a strong sense of self-worth that will attract the finances that are equal to that sense of self-worth. But I feel like you're being challenged to communicate in a different way and you're being challenged to think in a different way, especially if it involves other people, because that's where the turquoise card was really coming in, saying like you might not be right and everyone's perspective is equally valid. And Uranus in the third house is about literally changing the way that you relate to one another and understand, like mentally understand and process information from other people, as well as communicate. So it's going to be important for you to not get stuck in your ways, like release, see things from other people's perspectives, especially because it's a full moon in Libra, which is about seeing other people's perspectives. So yeah, release any fixed mindsets, face the shadows, release the escapist habits, and then you can start building towards a more solid foundation for your future. And it's interesting, I feel like you guys are having a lot come in for you guys. I mean, I did say that you could see like material things come into your world with the sun and Venus in the second house. Like that can attract more money. That can attract beautiful things into your life. And I pulled the Three of Pentacles and the Ace of Cups. So I am definitely getting the feeling that other people are here to support you right now. The Ace of Cups is an offering of love, overflowing emotion, and the Three of Pentacles is about collaborating and working together on something creative to bring to life. And so I feel like the universe is bringing in people to support you, but you just have to, work with them positively and really try to see eye to eye with them in these scenarios. And if you are getting an offering of love, if that's quite literally what this means for you, which is not particularly highlighted in the astrology based on the houses it's falling in, but based on the energy of the full moon, it is about relationships. So this could happen for you. But yeah, if this is resonating with you, then just make sure that you're clear about your intentions and communicating that to other people, and not if you're clear about what you want and not letting anything hold you back, that is like, I guess what I'm trying to say is that like as you're working on the Mars in the fourth house, which is again building that foundation for yourself, I don't want you to use that as an excuse to not accept love. So yeah, just be careful of that. Be careful about getting clear about what you want and not letting a good opportunity pass you by because you're so focused on like a certain goal of yours. So that's one element of it. And then also not getting too fixed in your idea of what the vision should be like for building this foundation, because maybe it involves other people more than you realize. Like maybe you actually need to rely on other people and you're not quite realizing it yet. And this turquoise is coming in to say, open your mind, open your heart, open your throat chakra, get super clear on what you want on the end goal and let go of the how, and then try to communicate that to people. And the people can come in and start to help you with the how, because you're not fixed on the how, you're fixed on the end goal, right? So like people can come in and plug in and change the how all they want, and you'll still get to that goal. And I feel like that's ultimately going to be more fulfilling with you for you to connect with other people and work with other people. I feel like you're going to be emotionally overflowing in abundance when you're not doing this in isolation. So yeah, I really hope that this isn't about loss for you guys, because Saturn in Pisces is very similar to Saturn in the 12th house, which you guys are currently experiencing, which can, if triggered, indicate some kind of loss in your life. So if that is happening, I think that this is an important time to really lean on your friendships with these connections here. Really lean on your friends to support you and uplift you, and allow them to pour their emotional love and energy into you, and you to just receive at this time. And yeah, get some turquoise. So I hope that this resonates with you guys. If so, please like and comment down below so I know. And if you want to purchase a reading from willowsbloom.com, you can do that. And I hope you guys have a really, really beautiful day. Bye.